Welcome, everyone. We're trying something new here today. So this is going to be the first iteration of BDP office hours. So thanks for joining today. We've worked with some of the fan designers from past series, and then some that may be new. Just we have put the call out to have fan designers reach out to us in the forum and express interest in participating in our office hours today. The goal is to just provide kind of tailored one-on-one feedback to any fans that would like to participate. And then obviously with this being live and recorded is so that anyone can come back and watch that feedback and see it. So, a couple kind of guide rails to begin with. So some models and some things may be from past series. They may be parts of a model that are coming up because they don't want to kind of disclose what they're working on right now, but would still like to get feedback on it per se. So there's a couple different things that we're doing that we're going to try to accomplish with today. But first and foremost is just a way for us to work collaboratively with the fan community, answer a lot of the questions that you may have regarding the studio software, whether it's BDP in general. And then let's just find a way to work collaboratively with the fan community and kind of provide that tailored support. So hopefully through this we'll dedicate, I think it's going to be about 15 minutes or so to each fan designer, and we'll kind of adjust that time accordingly. We'll be here till we're all the way through with each of the fan designers. I think there's 11 total that we're going to be talking to today. Some may be joining us in person, or I shouldn't say in person, live through audio, and then others might just be through chat in the comments. And then that way we can kind of star those chats and gather their questions and answer those accordingly. And then also, if there's any questions that are in the comments, we'll be going through those and picking out some if they're really relevant for that moment. We can answer those as well. We're going to try to dedicate that time specifically to that fan designer. But if there is something that's really pertinent, or it's like that's a great question, it would be really good to answer right now, we'll try to bring those up. So don't get discouraged if we don't answer every question in there, but we're trying to prioritize the fan designer that we're talking to at that minute. But again, we might highlight some of those things too. So with that being said, we'll get started. We're gonna start with is it Gareth, I believe, and his build here from the post office. So do we have, is Garrett in chat, or is he in?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, there it is. Yep, sorry, I was muted
You're
on our
fine.
end. Perfect. There we go. All right. All right. So it looks like you had some questions regarding your model, and maybe I think one of the things that you had said was what would most hinder it from being selected.
Correct.
And so I think it's a great question to start off with, because what I think first and foremost with this is there's nothing that would hinder a model from being selected outside of a major stability issue. So, and maybe this is just a play on words and semantics with maybe the phrasing of the question, but preventing something from being selected is it's almost always up to the fans and how much votes are there, right? So that's something that yeah, again, maybe a little bit of semantics, but there's nothing on our side that we would say is going to prevent a model from being selected outside of a future portfolio conflict, or if there's some major stability with that, and that's pretty rare. We don't expect anything. So if you're going through Studio and there's a it says like the Studio apps shows there's a collision, that's not a problem. We're not going to yeah, if you turn collisions on here, yeah, so if collision is turned on up here at the top, and you have an issue in your model with that, as long as it's not as egregious, it is a digital software, so there are some areas where it shows in physical build it works, but digitally there might be something that's clipping. That's fine. We would never block that for that. We assume there's going to be some work that we have to do to make the model perfect, or I shouldn't say perfect, to make it ready for production. But yeah, So with that being said, Gareth, is there, so I guess I would assume maybe the root of the question is more of like, what things would you improve with the model, or maybe you can elaborate more on that?
Right. So what I was really trying to say from there is, as a mocker, I look at the model, but obviously I'm not somebody on the review board. I'm not somebody who sees this necessarily as a Lego set. And
Mhm.
so, as somebody who sees it as a Lego set, is there a way that adjusting this model could improve my chances in the review board, or is that all up to the voting?
Yeah, it's almost entirely up to the voting, but what I would say is that if there are some things that would make it more enticing for fans, I think this is a comment, a question that we get quite frequently, and that is, what can I do to make my model stand out more, or what would improve this model? I think the number one thing that the trap that we fall into as mock designers is we you have an unlimited, part count basically that you can work with, right? So, you go to models at conventions, you see models, they're huge part counts, and we have a hard cap of 4,000 parts. It's very easy to balloon a part count by using a bunch of one by one elements, and add a ton of detail. But at the same time, you might end up with my example that I always kind of go to in webinars is a 4,000 part barn. And if you kind of use the 10 cents per part ratio that fans kind of inherently uh, go to, they're going to say, well, that's a 400 part barn, or that's a $400 barn. Well, am I going to buy a $400 barn? Well, it better be really cool and have a ton of things with it. And even then, that's still a $400 barn. So again, I think it's making sure that you are in a space where that part per price makes sense for your model. So just a quick tip here. I know it says 409 parts down at the bottom of the screen here. That is how many parts are on screen, but that does not include any parts that are within a submodel. So if you
Right.
were to go to the top, you can go into model info and it would say, all right, we're at 894 parts.
Yep.
So, for example, so in your case, I would say maybe I mean, we could be really picky and say, well, fans might be looking at that saying that's going to be an $85, $90 set. And that probably seems expensive. I would say that, obviously, if you look historically back at BDP, we are not near the 10 cents part per ratio. And that is something that we don't factor into our pricing
Right.
at all when we do it. But again, fans are thinking about these things when they're voting kind of subconsciously, right? So I would say if there's anything that we were going to do on this, it's the walls are, this is really cool. There's a lot of great detail in the way that these walls are done, and kind of a, yeah, it's a very novel kind of concept of waiting to do the walls. The price you pay for that then is it's a lot more parts. So if this came down to uh 800 parts or so, maybe if you shave 50 out of it, maybe, and that number all of a sudden, maybe there's some psychological thing that if there's a seven, if it's like 799 parts, that seems better than 800 and something parts, that kind
Yeah.
of like
That
the 999 type of thing instead of $10. Um,
exactly. That's the funny thing is, my brother and I talked about that, and we were like, it cannot be above 900 parts. It has to be below, which is why I landed on 894 or whatever it is, because Graham and I were like, it cannot be above 900. It's going to look way bigger at 900 than 800.
Yeah, yeah. And
I
so
agree.
it could be one of those things where it's like, yeah, it seems like it. Now, granted, let's from a strategic standpoint,
Hmm.
there's you have to, all models need to fit within the 2,500 part ratio, or sorry, a 2,500 part average across all
Hmm.
five models. Now, that 50 part difference isn't probably going to make too big of an issue from your model being selected or not, because that's totally something that happens, where there might be a model where it is 1,600 parts and it's pretty highly voted, but we don't have, and it's the fifth set being picked for the finalists. So,
Hmm.
and we need a set that's 1,400 parts. well, we can probably fudge a little high and go and say, okay, well, we can be at 1500, but 1600 is just too high, right? So unfortunately, at that point, well, then that 1600 part model is kind of out of the race per se. So that, that's something where it's like, maybe that 850 to 799, it's probably not going to make too much of a difference because that's 10, you're talking about 10 parts spread across all 5 models. We could
On
easily,
average, yes.
yeah, we already do that now where you'll see it's hard to get it exactly 2,500 parts across the selection. Sometimes we're low, sometimes we're high. And that might be because we might end up at 2,350 as an average because the next model that would have been large enough to get us to 2,500 was just so far down that it wasn't, it's not either fair and or viable to do that. So again, that's why I always encourage smaller models because they you can typically fill some gaps that are needed. So but then it's also something too where we get this question quite a bit too is, if you're designing multiple models, don't design the same part count, right? So if you design models that are the same part count, you're almost hurting your chances because it's nice to have multiple different bands that you fit in. It's the same of like if you design a larger part count, like a 4,000 part castle and a 4,000 part pirate set, for example, like only one of them's gonna get chosen, but and that seemed they're different themes, so like that's okay, but you're still 4,000, so it's gonna be one or the other. And granted, if it's a 4,000 part that's already chosen ahead of those, well then they're both eliminated, right? So sometimes you would
have your portfolio.
Yeah, it's good to diversify a little bit. So I think if you look back at somebody like King Creations, who's been a finalist 3 times now,
Camping Adventure, Off-Road Adventure, and then University of Science.
Yeah.
So 2 sets at like 1,200, and 4,000.
Yeah. Somewhere in there. But so for example, what he does is he puts a variety of part counts that are submitted. So then that way it's like, well, this one might have been really high voted, but it wasn't available because that part slot wasn't available. So then, we can drop down and find the next one. Oh, look, another one of his models is right there because it's, 300 parts smaller than that one. So not saying go out and make 8 models, like that's a lot of work. But there is some strategy in that.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh. But yeah, so hopefully that helps. But what I would say is the other question that you had was, is the stagecoach better with the office or separate? And I would say it is together. I think they go together well, right?
100% yes.
Yeah.
You want to play feature in your model, and that stagecoach definitely adds that.
Right. So yeah, my question with that specifically was just, I built the stagecoach originally and it barely scratched 400 parts. And so I talked with my brother about it and we're like, how do I improve this? Well, post offices were naturally what the West, a lot of times stagecoaches would go to post offices. So what I was more of saying with that was, would you see like it, just the stagecoach alone, maybe add a couple things, get it to 600 parts where it's just the stagecoach, couple details? Would that have a higher chance of potentially being selected historically with it? Or would it be better just to stick with this because you get, a vehicle and a building?
It's hard to say, but in reality, what I think you could potentially do too is you could keep this model as is, right? And make some minor updates with the palette changes that are in play. But then also whatever model you were going to do with the, if you were going to upscale the carriage to be 600 parts, you could do that too and just submit it as a different model. Because there'd be enough of a difference between the carriage. If you're adding 200 parts to the carriage, I would imagine it's not all like the accessories on the top, right? Because they're already there. So adding 200 elements to it would change the model enough that it's something different, right? So yeah, obviously there's something similar that you've already submitted, but that's fine. That's not, we wouldn't say like, oh, that's the exact same thing. So yeah, it's very clearly you put effort into making it a different model. So
Right.
I mean,
Makes sense.
if that's something you wanted to do, that would be a way to do it, where you have a 900 part model and a 600 part model.
Exactly.
You know, that gives you that differentiation, right? But they're kind of similar in the sense of, you know, if you're going for that Wild West vibe, you're giving options. So I think that would be smart.
All right.
Cool.
I think I had one more question about the model.
Sure.
It was, is there something that you guys see that you're like, you know, stylistically, colors or something, does it feel too cluttery? Is there something design-wise that needs to be added or improved upon?
I wouldn't say that like stylistically, it's a great build, and I think it's efficient enough from the part usage. Like obviously there are design choices that have been made for to achieve the wood look of the walls, etc. The inside's very well detailed. I like the functionality of the roof being able to
Hinge up.
yeah, you can hinge up the roof here. Like there's some really good functionality with it. Like that's smart. That's a great way of doing it, right? So overall, if anything, yeah, it's a little busy on the outside with some of the plants and that kind of thing. So maybe you could tone some of that back, or just find some different, you know, maybe there's some new elements that have come out in the new palette that could be more interesting. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's quite good as is. You know, or if you upscale, you know, maybe adding a little bit more scale to it. So if we look at the bottom here, you know, there'd be a better way to add more base plates, because this is one of the very interesting things about BDP is that the part count is the limiting factor, not the price of the parts. So, you know, some models you will see there's a lot of there might be a model that has a lot of really small parts, and then you have another model that has a lot of really large parts. A good example of that would be old train engine shed. Old train engine shed it filled 2 full base plates, and it was 25 or something. I was like 2,500 somewhere in there. But you look at it and it's like some of the other models that are 3,000 parts are maybe the same size. And so because there's a bunch of 1x16 brick counts the same as a 1x1 round tile, but they're wildly different in sizing. So there may be some areas where you can get away with larger elements, right? Do not be scared of using large elements, because within the Lego group, that's something that we need to do, because maybe part count might be an issue, or all of the extra detail that we would love to have, where, like, for example, the side panels here of the building, we can achieve that with a larger element, and then therefore your part count doesn't balloon. So
right,
just food for thought.
Makes sense. Right, that makes sense. Excellent.
All right. Well, I appreciate you joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing your submissions.
Yeah. Well, thanks for setting this up. I'm glad I got to do this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Talk soon. All right. Now let's move on to
Tease.
our next designer. Oh, Tease. All right. Let's go. Do we have? Oh, it's. Go back. There we go.
Another train.
Tease.
Ooh.
All right. Is Tease joining us via chat?
Hello.
Oh, hey, there you are. Hey, Tease. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Doing well. All right. For those of you that do not recognize Tease is the fan designer from Logging Railway in Series 2. So a past finalist with BDP. It's great to see you again. It's been a while since we've chatted.
Yeah. Nice.
All
Glad
right.
to be here.
So what would you like to talk through today?
Yeah. I'm quite happy with what I've got with the train itself, but I'm thinking about adding a few side builds or leaving it out to keep the part count low. That's kind of the main thing I wanted to get your guys and anyone who's watching as well opinion on, I guess. So right now the side builds are basically just the little buffer stop, the truck, and the signal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was considering adding a small like coaling station and a water tower maybe for the locomotive, some kind of unloading ramp for the truck, or maybe some kind of like greenery, like a tree or something. But I'm always kind of in doubt whether they add stuff to the renders, they make it look more interesting and kind of give them all a bit more of a pop. But I also really like that it's currently like just under the 2000 part count, and I kind of like that where it's at for the model.
Yeah, right now, it looks like you're right at 2000 right now. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of what we would recommend doing when you are, because from a side build standpoint, it's pretty good. I mean, it depends on what do you want your focus to be. Do you want your focus to be the train, or is it, because I guess I think back to logging railway, and what I loved about logging railway was the bridge, very rarely is infrastructure the centerpiece of a model, right? And I think logging railway captured that beautifully in the sense of like, it's a train model, but really it's a bridge. This is what you're getting here. You're getting an awesome bridge. So I guess that I would go back to that and think about, like, do you want the centerpiece to be the train, or do you want the centerpiece to be the things with the train? And maybe if we look at, for example, Wild West Train, that was a finalist in Series 4, Series 4. The train was the centerpiece, right? And then there were some side builds that added to it. So if you want to be in the train is the centerpiece, then I would say you're maybe you can add one more thing. Like, I think it's nice having the signal and the way that you're doing the signal. That's unique and novel. The buffer stop at the end, it's a great idea. Yeah, maybe I don't know how much you're going to need to do some type of ramp, how you incorporate that into the model, and then even then from like a storytelling and a play standpoint, I think that's probably, if we do include anything else, it should probably be a play feature or some kind of function, right? I think this is something that a lot of designers, maybe it's overlook, maybe is the way to say it, that you could, adults still enjoy play features. They enjoy novel concepts of like, wow, I never thought how you could do something like that. And so they like seeing that. And that serves as some inspiration and brings some added depth to a model. Because otherwise it's just a statue, and a statue can be made out of many things. It doesn't just have to be made out of Lego. So
yeah, I was really glad to see they put that you guys had the little activator track in the palette for the signal now, because that makes it, I don't know.
Okay. I didn't, you know what? I missed that. That's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, basically you can set it to green, and then if a train goes over it, it'll automatically set itself back to.
Very cool. Yeah, I completely missed that. That is very smart. Yeah, I like that. That'll add that. That's definitely cool. Yeah. So
really glad
and
to see
then
that
too,
part in there.
something is when you are doing your renders and whatnot, I think that's something to highlight as well. I don't know that there's a way to do that in your main image. I mean, obviously you can play around with it, but trying to figure out, how do you put that front and center? And I know you've done some videos and stuff like that in the past too, so that might be ways to show that on the page itself. But yeah, trying to incorporate some of those play features into your renders or your images and videos, that'll definitely go a long way. Because we definitely see that, especially for things, for example, like trains or castle, the differentiating factor, because those things get voted pretty highly, is what extra little bit does that have? And play features are usually something that gets you that extra 5% of vote, because be like, oh, that's really cool. It does this and that. And sometimes you'll see models that maybe the design isn't as strong as others, but because the play features are so cool, they do better.
And I think building technique too. If
Yeah.
you could highlight a building technique too, that would boost your chances.
Yeah, kind of showing some of the and maybe I don't know. I'd say that it's like showing that there's a really cool technique for doing something, because exactly like we were just looking at that general store, that wall could get washed out pretty easily in a render, so you don't actually see the technique of how that's built. And you say, where did all the parts in this model go? Why did it get so high? Well, in this case, maybe it's showing up some really good close-ups of the carriage here to show that, like, yeah, this thing might be pretty high in parts, but it's for a reason. It's very highly detailed, etc. So
actually, I really like this car. The
yeah,
car on
the shaping on the car is very nice.
The window panel sideways.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, really happy with how that turned out.
So maybe putting more focus on some of those things too. That would definitely be.
Yeah, the unique building techniques. That's a huge plus.
Yeah, and it's not just another, hey, here's just a rudimentary car, that's included with this. It's like, no, there's really cool techniques used to make this to get something completely different. Because again, I think that's something that a lot of fans really highlight. And when I talk to people at conventions and whatnot, is that people like building BDP models because they learn all kinds of new techniques that typically are not done within a Lego system set. So yeah, all those types of things that you can kind of do, that's to highlight some of your building techniques that you're doing. I think that'll be very valuable.
All right.
And then you had a question about a technique about a tile and a handrail. So was it specifically? Is it in a specific area?
It's the little locomotive, like the handrails on the outside of the locomotive on the front and the back.
Okay.
They're like using the little 1x1 tile.
Oh, okay. With the clip and a clip.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referencing here?
Yeah. That's something I kind of do without thinking when I'm building mocks, but I was wondering if that's a legal technique or not.
I don't. That's a great question. There's, what's funny is that there's a lot of things that we find out. Is this legal or is this not legal? Because I feel like because these are our fan design sets, there's so many things that we get to ask questions on, right? That have never come up in a sense, because they would Lego designers internally are just trained in a specific way of building, so they wouldn't think to use a part like that. But yeah, I don't know if it would be or not. I'll definitely ask, and apologies in advance. I completely misunderstood this question because I thought it was referencing something different.
That's okay.
But what I would say is there's ways to resolve this if it was in a problem where you would use the
1x1 round.
Well, 1x1 round, yeah.
The bar in the middle.
Yeah, it has the bar in the middle.
Did
I go faster? Yeah, right here. It's anti-stud, right? We would add a little bit of height, but then you could use the nipple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do something like that.
Oh yeah.
So it adds a little bit of height, but
that should be doable if it turns out not to be allowed.
Yeah. So there's definitely options. Yeah, you could do something like that, and that would adds a little bit of height, but maybe there's ways of changing some things around.
Yeah, I should be able to figure something out for that.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Any other questions you have?
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to ask is about stickers, because that's something that I personally just kind of feel like add to the model, but I know a lot of people dislike stickers. So I was wondering if you guys have some like idea on what people want to see. I had a submodel that's hidden with a few ideas for where to put stickers, and I was kind of just thinking out loud, like, should I add them? Should I not add them? How much stickers should I add? I think at least the tank car really wants some kind of branding on the two barrels,
Mhm.
and
I
maybe a nameplate or a number plate for the locomotive.
Yeah, so I feel like stickers really do make the model pop, because when we test build, we obviously don't have any custom stickers. So we build the model and it looks amazing, but once we get the stickers, it makes it really shine, makes it really pop.
Yeah, and just to be quite frank too, though, is that BDP, we are working with the existing palette, and so there's no novel elements that we're creating, and so being able to add stickers will help elevate certain things. And so I know generally people are like, I wish this was printed. If I could print it, I would. We would definitely do that. It becomes a supply chain issue, and that's where the speed that we produce sets in a year and 5 months, that's lightning speed. So we wouldn't be able to do that. So that's why we was like, if you can put stickers in your set, and tease, the process has changed quite a bit in the sense since we worked together in Series 2, where now we're adjusting stickers a little bit more, and fan designers have a little bit more creativity in a sense of like, hey, should we add more things? So for example, think going back to like logging railway, we probably could have added more numbers in, right? So that you had additional variants that you could add. And so I think those are types of things that we can do for options. So an example of that would be siege encampment, where we added the extra faction flags, just because it adds a little bit extra variability to the set, right? You might like one versus the other more, and so you get the option of doing that. The cost of the stickers is negligible in the overall versus the value that's created by that, right? So that's something where we've been trying to work with fan designers, and we know some fan designers don't have maybe the skills necessary to create custom stickers, or they're like, well, I just made these in Microsoft Paint or something rudimentary, and it's like, that's totally fine. All you're doing with the stickers is conveying what you're intending to do with it. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? So
Agreed.
that's what the Lego graphic designers are for. So I think it's smart to include stickers. You don't have to rely on them. Clearly, some builds don't need them, and there's definitely an avenue that way as well. But if you're thinking about, well, I think this would be better with stickers, it's probably better with stickers. So,
Okay.
and then you can as many or as little as you add. Clearly the type of sticker, if it's a bunch of 1x2 tiles and you're adding a ton of stickers to it, well, then that gets tedious, maybe more so than maybe some of the larger stickers. But those are types of things you could think of. Like, I think a lot of designers, you have experience with the Lego system, right? So just put some of your experiences with when you've built Lego system sets to say, this is what I like about it, or this is what I don't like about it, and you can use kind of some of that to your advantage, right? Because fans are initially going to be thinking, a lot of that's just kind of innate in people, and they're gonna be thinking about that when they're voting on models. So
Yeah, I guess my main worry was just that people were going to look at the model and see like, oh, it has 8 stickers, and be like, that's too many. But if that's not something you've really been seeing, then I guess I will just add a few
I don't
stickers.
think having 8 stickers on a 2,000 piece model is going to deter them away from purchasing it.
yeah, no, I mean, if that's the case, then Speed Champions wouldn't be in business. So
True, yeah.
Or any of the Technic cars.
yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, I'm thinking about some of the models that we've had in the past, like, for example, we have sushi restaurant right above me, and that's a model right now. It doesn't have stickers on it because they're not done yet. But it's, once you put the stickers on it, it's a completely different model, and it looks so nice. And clearly, fans really love that model too. So it's, yeah, I would say stickers are a good thing. So
Yes.
All right.
cool. All right,
Well,
Tease, thank you for your time. Really appreciate
Yeah,
talking
thank
to
you
you
guys.
today.
It's really nice getting all your feedback on this. Thanks for organizing this.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tees.
See you, Tease. All right. Now we are going to go to Graham. There it is. It sends me to the back every time. All right. Do we have Graham in chat?
Yep.
Oh, there we
Right
go.
here.
There it is. All right.
Well, hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining. So was there, I think it was earlier, was there a brother involved in this somehow?
Yes, that would be my brother.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I you know, clearly, like we saw the last names were similar, but then
Yeah, my name got stuck in there on
earlier. He was like, yeah, my brother, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Yes, you're probably not surprised. Lego is a family affair, and it's no different here. So,
Yep. No, I think there's been precedent set for brothers participating in BDP. You may recognize Nicolas Carlier and his brother Thomas Carlier. Thomas goes by Brick Project, and so he's the designer of the gold mine expedition and sushi restaurant.
That is so funny. I did actually.
Parisian Street.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that. I noticed their styles were similar, but I never made the connection. That's so cool.
And to add another layer to it, they are twins.
Oh wow, there you go.
So yeah, all right. Well, welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so this is a model that I've actually submitted twice, both times the exact same model, and both times it's been very well received, like in terms of just what I can gauge from commenting and stuff.
Yep.
People really love it. They like the uniqueness, the color, the whatever. But obviously, it's in a very difficult part bracket because it's up at, I think, 3,800 or something around there.
38.
Yeah, 3827. And then at least the second time that I submitted it, it got put in Castle, which was really not as intended themed. I was aiming this much more for fantasy or like kind of the sci-fi fantasy category that gets. I felt this fit a much better, but when it was obviously in Castle and at 4,000 parts, I don't really know if it had much of a chance.
Okay.
And so I'm really like the style, and I'm kind of looking about how I could rebuild it and adapt the model for another submission. And just looking for tips on how to take a model that is so big and so detailed and maintain what's stay true to the original model, but then also get this in a way that it will be much better in the voting and review process.
Okay. No, great questions, and again, an incredible build. It is beautiful for sure. Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. That the part count is probably the biggest limiting factor, because voting, you know, you're in the bracket where it's tight, right?
Yeah.
For anything that is 3,600 and over
up 32. They all get categorized kind of around the same, and you have a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Is the most submitted sets is the 3,200 and up.
Yeah, right around in that bracket are, and you also have the highest detailed models. So generally those draw a lot of eyeballs. And that's not to say that small sets aren't as good. It's just, you know, the larger, more detailed the set is, people, they're like the wow factors there, right? So it just kind of naturally gets more votes. So yeah, I think that's probably, and again, I think, I did not to sound like a broken record. Yeah, part count is probably the biggest thing that I think is kind of the Achilles heel of a lot of models, is that there's just too many parts in there. And so I think you have a great variation of this question, and it's on is how do I shrink the parts in this model? Because what makes this model so nice is all of the detail in it, right? And so that's where what we would look at, and if we were going through and reviewing this model, let's just say that we were that this model was selected at the as a finalist, the number one place that we will always go to look for parts to save is the bottom of the model. And so here we can see there's a lot of individual 2x elements that are stacked with 1x's, and so, you know, I understand that the base is kind of the foundation that you're building on, but where possible, if if, for example, this dark tan section here could very easily be a 16 by 16 plate. I understand that you lose some of the curvature of the, you know, whether they're 4x or 6x rounded plates. But there are some ways to get around that, right? Where you could potentially have a 16 by 16 here, and you just have to bump it out one layer or one row, if that makes sense. And so you get a nice clean finish on this side, then maybe this side bumps out one layer. And not everything needs to be fully finished. Like this is all tiled off here. That's great. That's serving a purpose. But you could have more space over here that is untiled, you know, kind of bare studs per se. So that's where I will always go, and I think Rick probably similar too, is always looking at the base of models, because a lot of times they're overbuilt for for stability, but they're also built for just because it's like, all right, well, just stacking parts, right, and no gaps, and that's an area where you can kind of save some elements. So I think that would probably be the number one area that we would start, and then trying to find out like the trunk of the tree and the shaping of it is beautiful. I wouldn't want to change anything there, but what you could potentially do is try to figure out ways to hollow it out on the inside so it isn't so full of elements per se. Or maybe there's some smaller parts that are used in here where, for example, you know, this in here we have there's 4 elements making up one slope here, or could be potentially one slope that you use to replace 4 elements. So there are certain areas like that where you could kind of potentially go around and say, okay, well, here's 4 parts. I lowered that into 1. And if you do that enough around certain areas, you'll get rid of 100 parts real quick. And so just trying to find areas where you are, like I get some of these trees are some of these elements are double stacked in here, and it adds a wonderful depth to it. But if you change the angle of some of these, there might be a way to, so that's not as, you're not seeing the side view of this as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll look fuller without having to rely on multiple elements to achieve that, if that's clear. But yeah, otherwise, like parts of it, and I know it's challenging when you're building with colors that are maybe, let's say, not the core color palette, or are super common. Sand green is becoming a little bit closer to being more common. But when you're building with colors like medium nougat and sand green and dark orange, like they're great colors, but they don't necessarily have all of the standard elements that you would have, especially when you're building walls. And so then real quickly, you know, you can see there's 4 plates stacked up right here. That piles up real quick. If there's, you know, in here, there's a, you know, you might have to have, I don't know what these parts are right now. I can go in and look at it, but, oh, did I stop sharing the screen?
I can still see it.
Okay, good. I clicked on something. I want to make sure it didn't go away. So thank you. If it's...
Yeah, some of those plates I think are due
it's because
to allow for brick modifieds to be at the right depth or height.
There's a 2x2 corner here, and then to make it, so sometimes you know, it gets in your way and you have to do that, but having to do this once, and then all of a sudden there's 10 times in this little area, and then there's four buildings that it's in, it adds up real quick, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you might be able to get away with, depending on how this is interlocked, like, you know, maybe I would look at this top part here, if there's a way to, oh, whoops, it's not H, it's L. You know, maybe I would say, all right, I would join these 2 up here at the top rather than joining it in the middle, and then that will eliminate, eliminate the parts that you need. And since this is, you know, you could choose if this is brown at the top or not. and then that way it looks like it's a support beam going across the top. Like, you know, it's still a cutout view, right? Because that's what you're going for here is you want to see the cutout section here, but you're still getting that view. If this goes to brown, it doesn't look too out of place because it's on both sides, and you're seeing support beams across the top. So as a cutout, I wouldn't say that that's out of place and it's like, oh God, the model's ruined. Because I think that's something too that fan designers focus on a little too much, is that they're like, no, it has to be perfect. Like if this color changes ever so slightly to this next color, it won't be acceptable. And
Right.
99.99% of the time, when we do make that change, because when we're working on a model with a fan designer, and that part's not available in that color anymore, or we need to reduce part count, and this is an easy way to do it, the fans will never know that changed, right?
Yeah.
It's only you that knows that it changed. And so sometimes we got to kind of get around that, in the sense of like just accepting that, you know, there might be the best way of doing that, but the best way might also be the cost might be too high, in a sense of you're using too many parts, or you could do something else and you have to sacrifice this now, or, you know, not the actual monetary value of it, but you get what I'm trying to get at. So,
and I think, and this kind of leads a little bit, kind of, I guess, as a follow-up. What would you say is the ideal, just from all of your experience, your ideal part bracket for this? Clearly, it's not 4,000 because I've tried it twice, right?
Yeah, I would say
if I
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's your question. I keep cutting you off. That's
if I came in right under that, right, in like kind of a 2,800 to 3,200 range, is that where this is? Or there's even like in the chat here, there's multiple people are saying, well, maybe I should just trim one of the house sections. Maybe I don't need to have a left side and a right side. I just choose one or the other, and that would trim it down by, you know, maybe 1,500 parts. Like, to me, I don't know how the composition, like I'd have to fill that void. There would be something missing in composition. But again, maybe that's what it would take. I don't know.
Potentially no. So there are options, right? Where you could say it's, you know, if you just straight up removed half and did something like that, and instead of this being, you know, sticking out, it wraps around the side. You could potentially do that. I feel like that's a pretty significant surgery to the model.
Right.
As is, you know, yeah, south of 32 is probably going to be your best bet. I think, like you said, 28 to 3,200. I don't know how much you can really shave out of it without losing the core of what the model is, right?
Right.
But I do think if that's something where it's like, hey, you know, I'll spend a couple hours looking at it and saying, what happens if I do shave one side of the building off and I target 2,800, right? And then I can still have the level of detail that I have at 4,000 parts because the footprint is smaller. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it all depends. It really all depends, because, as you know, castles, you know, there's a lot of 4,000 part sets that a lot of castle sets are submitted at 4,000 parts. And so generally, I'm not saying that they have the first right of refusal, because clearly we've done other sets that are 4,000 parts that are not castle. But generally, castle's going to kind of have to fall in line behind those 4,000 part sets, right? So
Yeah.
all the other things, it's, if you want to be in that, and also to clarify, this doesn't necessarily need to be castle.
Yeah, that wasn't intended to be.
Just so you know, historically, anything, and this is good for everyone to know, is that if you have medieval torsos in your model, it generally just gets put in the castle, but that doesn't necessarily need to be that way. It could be. The only caveat to that is if you're using the faction torsos, then it's immediately castle, right?
Right.
Whereas this one, like, we probably could, if that was a concern, we could have moved this into fantasy.
Yeah, I probably should have messaged the support email.
Yeah, and you know, again, that's something where it's like you know, if you have an issue with like, hey, this is in, you know, we've had a couple models where it's in building and they're like, I'd prefer it's in train. We can move it. That's not a problem. So, you know, it's purely up to what the fan designer is, and maybe that's a future update, is where we allow you to select that at the when you submit the model. That would probably make sense to do. So yeah, but
Right.
again,
Well,
thank you. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the feedback.
And again, great job with your designs. It's a beautiful model. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hope to see the revision.
yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
That's the fun thing about this, is now we get to kind of like wet our beak on what's coming in submission intake, because that's one of the most fun times in our job, is getting to watch all the models kind of come in.
Get better and better and better.
And then also watching fan designers, you know, as they submit from series to series as we see improvements. So
Yeah, absolutely.
cool. All right. Let's go on to the next one. That's Daniel. I remember this model.
The Wizard Tower?
The Wizard Tower. Wizard's Tower, yes. So do we have Daniel with us?
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yep, we got you. All right. So looks like you got some questions around feedback from, I think this was Series 7 when this was submitted, correct? Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, it was lagging there for a second.
Okay. No worries. So yeah, so this was submitted to Series 7, and there was some feedback regarding stability of the model, because it is a beautiful model. There is, and it's a very kind of interesting concept per se. Having kind of this tower that's in disrepair, but it's also kind of magically held together because of the occupants. So yeah, so one of the feedbacks that we had was you know, once you stacked everything in place, there wasn't enough rigidity in the base to kind of hold it upright.
Right.
And so it looks like you've is this the second version, or this is the updated version? Correct.
Well, I just copied over that
Okay.
group from the right, so it had more visibility. I actually, this is kind of fun. I actually got my local friends to help me source the parts to build the Series 7 model. So it was like a group effort to at least build it to confirm y'all's comments. And I think the comments were that it was really wobbly front to back. And it was really actually okay left to right along the diagonal, which I did strengthen. But as you can see, what I actually did was I moved the core all the way to the front section so that it's not overhanging the fold out. And so you look at it from the side. If you look at it from the side, the whole tower is on the first section of the base. And then what I added were these Technic columns, 4 of them inside in black and gray, along with the Technic lift arms. I don't have these pieces, and so I can't build this to confirm. But as you can imagine, I got the sense that this was very well received in Series 7. And I don't know how close it was, but if you guys test built it, then I know that it was certainly a favorite.
Test building is a good sign.
Yeah. You can imagine my biggest fear is submitting again only to get not selected as a finalist because it's got stability issues. And so I don't know if we can just talk through how this goes together, and if from what you guys can see, this would pass muster, if that makes sense.
Yes. No. So I would definitely it's a good thing that you have at least test built the previous version, and then if you're able to at some point get the elements to test the center column or to use something else as a replacement for those elements in the interim. Because the stability, there were a couple things that I see that you've already immediately addressed, and those were in the previous model where the lift arms that came off the side here, where those attached into the model, it was independent. So right now you've got this sandwiched into a Technic brick, right? And there's some plates above it, and that will hold it into place. Previously, there was a
it was that vertical
was
Technic piece with the anti-studs on the bottom.
Yes. And so it was very easy to lift off. I'm just going to find the element real quick so I can show everyone so they know what we're talking about. Here it is.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it was something like, let me get out of here.
Just kind of
main model. And it was put in like this, something like that. And so what would happen is one of these, this strut essentially was supporting the model from moving side to side. And, but there was nothing holding this element down. So outside of the 1x2 anti-stud connection, it really wasn't a lot of support. So burying that Technic connection under some plates, like I would still see here, this would still probably be a concern because
no overlap.
There's no overlap here. So this would pull up pretty easily, right? Now you went from a 1x2 to a 2x3 when you probably could modify it so that I understand you have a 2x8 here. 2x8 plate. There's probably a way to get more overlap in this section.
Like a 3x3 or something on top of it, even more or something to hold it in.
Yeah. And I think an element that a lot of people kind of sleep on and forget about is there's a 3x4 plate. It's a tile. Why is
okay.
Just go this way.
The CMF,
here.
the CMFs. Yeah,
the CMF stand. So that's something where I'm just going to release this so that way it's easy to work with, and do that and delete that, and then you could do something like that.
I could figure that out.
And that is all. So now you basically have what you had there before. Obviously, this is now gray instead of green, so you might be able to change some of the foliage around or however you want to do that. I don't think that's not a deal breaker that anyone's going to be like, oh, it used to be green, now it's gray. Like that's not going to get noticed as long as you design around that, right? But now that part is sandwiched down even further. Or if you wanted to go one further, because now you have a 1x2 and this can lift up by itself, depending on what you have. Okay, I was thinking you could do a 2x2 Technic brick with the molded pin. You could do that as well, and then you could sister these two lift arms together so that it's only connected. The molded pin, is only going into the first one, but then these are sistered the whole way up with Technic pins to keep them together. Right. That could be a way of doing it, or you could do. You could do something like you could have multiple Technic axle bricks right here, and then just have the axle run through. There's options. You got options, but to find something that's really solid, because if you're using that as an anchor point, then you want it to be very, very solid.
Right. And the same thing for the base column. Yeah.
So then something here too that I'm noticing, I don't know, without building it, if it would be an issue, but I would say like right here, you've got a part line running straight up right here. And that would,
I see that.
Oops, so that could be something where
maybe move the arch over.
You might need a little bit more stability there. Because right now, I understand that it might be connected over the
it's resting. It's resting on all of that and tied in there.
But given all of the weight that is being supported on that part line right there would probably be an issue. So, I don't know if you have any input on that.
Technic brick.
I mean, honestly, it could just be as simple as literally
making it longer.
Move this over one, right?
Oh, I see what you're
Have a
saying.
1 by 1 there, right? So
Oh yeah.
there's options. There's options to play
Okay.
around with that. But yeah, as much as you can, try to avoid any kind of doubles, any stacked vertical lines.
If you go back to if you look at the other one that's separated, the example over, I copied it over so we could see how it's to the left of the page.
Oh, yeah.
Basically what I have is these columns that are tied in with the blue Technic, and then they're on all 4 sides, there's a Technic bricks that are then tied in to help with any overturning, if that makes sense. And then at the top, I've actually doubled up the lift arms at the above the next section,
in here.
and it's clamped down with. I basically got rid of the entire middle section and made it just for structure in the tower, and it's kind of clamped down. So, I don't. I guess the stuff that we're talking about, it sounds like this could be far enough along where things could get handled. Maybe like the minor tweaks you're talking about seems like normal. A finalist would make adjustments, not full redesign. Yes. Like, do y'all feel like this is addressing some of those issues where it would be something that could be addressed or handled in that, follow-up phase, if that makes sense?
Potentially. I think the only other thing that you would need to look at is how do you prevent this from rocking side? Like right now we are, you're good in kind of the front to back motion here.
Okay.
The side to side motion is good, right?
Right.
Because it's anchored over here. And then also when you're building up here, this is something where I don't know how this is something we can figure out later if, like, let's say it was a finalist. This whole sub-assembly up here would probably be something that just sets into place.
Right.
Because when you're pushing down on it, that would be, you're basically pulling the whole model sideways. This, to utilize this area, I would just assume it's something that just snaps into place. I shouldn't say it snaps into place, but maybe there's one anti-stud in the middle that allows it to kind of lock in. But it's really just a
gentle touch
sitting on top, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. But it's the front to back. It's the front to back.
The front to the back. Yeah, front to back. Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of that is solved by having it all be in one side.
And if you remember, and it's been a while since y'all built it, but I had 2 Technic lift arms that were connected with the Technic stud, and that was it, right? And so it was super, and I didn't realize just how flexible Technic is in reality. And so I've kind of gotten a combination of Technic and stud connections to kind of, actually, if you want to use an example, I actually looked at the Mario and Yoshi set, the official set, because they use those things, and there's a Technic column exactly like this. And as far as I'm concerned, if the Lego designers use a similar technique, then surely because that's basically basically a fully vertical set.
Yeah, and that's a great idea though, is just taking what you can borrow and choose and peel some ideas from other models to get some inspiration for how that would typically be done. And I think something that this middle section here, something to think about is, I understand that like it is very well designed the way that it is currently, but it either needs to be this is static and you can't get inside of it, or if you want to be able to access this area, it needs to be redesigned so that it is repeatable, right?
I've made it static.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's static, then you're good, and you can have all the intricate detail of what makes that look really nice.
I chose that route. I said, let's abandon this one section and have it just for structure. I know y'all, I'm short on time, and that was my main question. I guess I'm committed to staying under 2,500 pieces. I think that's just a good place to be. I guess from a minifigure standpoint, and maybe just some of y'all's thoughts on some of the lore or storytelling, the Magisto like torso with yellow hands is no longer available, but the all blue with blue hands is still available. And I just don't know if that's going to be like an issue, or I've kind of, the last submission was sort of this idea of reimagining the Dragon Knights, but people don't really like stickers on shields. And so I've said, well, we have all these new factions. And so I'm just sort of thinking through some of the storytelling. I kind of actually just came up with the idea that maybe it's just a few of the factions that are like, there are changes in the realm and they're coming to visit the wizard to get his thoughts on it all. And so this idea that it's just some new characters and putting the current knights in there that people would be excited about. I just don't know how much like the storytelling, like the dragon wing is no longer available, so I can't do the baby dragon. And so like I'm just sort of not back to square one, but it's like Magisto is important and the new factions are important. And I think people will be excited to see those in submissions. And so there's definitely like, I think people will be, the Griffin Knight is locked behind $160, set. And so people will be excited that those would be part of these submissions, if that makes sense. And so just, I don't know, maybe some of y'all's thoughts on the storytelling part of it.
Yeah, I think the idea is well, and this kind of just generalized feedback, but
yeah, I get
the models that seem to be more successful are models that are doing something that hasn't been done before, especially for Castle. And if you are looking at, there's been a lot of really nice Lion Knight Castle 4,000 part stuff being submitted, but you'll see that those haven't really made it through as a finalist. The one Lion Knight centric set that did make it through was the Medieval Seaside Market, because it did something that's has not been done before, right? And so that again, in Castle, it's all about what's going to set you apart, right? And so
Fortress, Siege Encampment, Transylvania, even though it's not medieval, but it's a different castle.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping the build is this for that,
Exactly. I think the build sets it apart. So the minifigures, I think, play a secondary role to this, where I feel like some other things, the minifigure and the faction and the theming is what makes or break the model, right? Where if you took Mountain Fortress and put Lion Knights in it, I don't think it would have been as successful, because it'd be like, well, people would say, we already have a 4,000 part Lion Knight Castle. I don't need a second one, right?
Yeah.
So in general, and I think this is valuable for all people, I should say all fan designers, is think about what is going to set your model apart. Because sometimes, it won't just be that it's a really awesome build, because you could then just hamstring yourself by tying it to something that like just got a faction, or, for example, there's I'm trying to think of what models we have that would be relevant for that.
But to go back to your story, maybe you can make this one like a round table, one of each faction come together.
Yeah. That's what I did.
I had this Wizard's Tower for a meeting or something.
It's exactly what I did. I had the Wizard and Apprentice and two Griffin, 2 Snake, and 2 Horse Knight, and I just don't like the Kraken, so I just left him out. So that's exactly what I was planning. So I think I'm glad that that's confirmed. So and I'm also working on making the roof maybe look more like a wizard's hat. So we'll say that's why I left it out, because it was kind of keeping that close to the chest. But I appreciate the time and the feedback. Perfect. This has been super helpful. I'm looking forward to submitting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good chatting with you. All right. Let's go on to the next one. This
Bastion Elders.
Hello.
Hello. All right. So some housekeeping. How do we pronounce your name?
Oh, Bastien in French, but Bastien would be fine.
All right. Well, nice to meet you.
Elders Rest Island.
All right.
Ooh.
There we go. All right. All right.
General thoughts of the model.
All right. And then your question was around just thoughts on the model, or?
Well, interestingly, all other previous fan designers already asked a bunch of them, so you might repeat yourself. So sorry about that. But yeah, the first one would be actually about positioning, and let's say what are the main elements and are they placed properly all together. I have my opinion on that already, and I was curious about yours.
Yeah, so what we'll try to do is provide some additional feedback or some kind of context around specifically to your model too. So because I know obviously we're going to have there's going to be a lot of similar questions and that kind of thing. So don't for yourself and for anyone else, don't feel like self-conscious or anything about that. Like you're asking the same types of questions. A lot of these, I mean, it's the same program, so there's gonna be a lot of similar type questions that are tailored specifically to your model, and obviously that's what we're trying to do here is to give you that tailored feedback, right? And so just over the top, first thing that I'll always do on a model is how big is the model? 1,400 parts. Great. That's kind of where I would expect this to be at generally in this area. I mean, maybe you could shave a little bit out of it. But then again, it's what are you trying to do with this model? So maybe that's where I'll throw it back to you is what is the goal? What is the theme, the story, the idea of the model, so that then we can probably provide better feedback on that.
Okay, so that was the third question. How do we turn a pitch into a mock so you can understand what you see at the first glance? And actually, I think the issue currently, and I would just voice it out loudly, is that we can't understand what's going on. And the point of the set was to try to figure out how old pirates would retire from piracy and live on an island. And this is why if you take out the roof, you can see their past. But I think it's a bit too hidden. Oh, sorry, it's a bit complex. Might need to edit and release. And it's under the actual
I
roof.
see it. Yep.
Yeah. So if you edit a few times, you may be able to remove the roof.
Yeah, I'll just release it is what I can do. And then I can. There you go.
Yeah.
See, it's extra secret.
Yeah, and I guess its main issue is that this is not visible from the outside, and so.
But that's a good thing, right? Because it's meant to be.
That's what's meant to be, indeed.
Yes.
But I think it kind of hindered the intention. So initially, when you look at from the outside, you don't get it, and I think that was one of the main comments I got from various people is that I'm not sure to understand it. And when I start to pitch it and hey, take out that roof. Oh, okay, I see. And I was wondering how we could probably try to take those parts, keeping the secrecy thing, but at the same time hinting at, oh, there is more. There is something hidden somewhere.
So I think that's where the title of the model comes into play, the description, right? So, those are kind of breaking the fourth wall type things where, in universe, in the minifigure universe here, they don't know there's a title of this model. They don't know there's a description to the model. And I think that's where some of those things would come through. And so, I don't know what your title might be, but it could be, a retired Pirates Haven or, Getaway or something like that. And in a theme where it's very clear from the title what the model is, and that helps set the tone for the model, right? Because if you just call it Sleepy Hideaway, then people are like, well, what does that mean? What, until they go and look at, and then they got to go through 8 photos to then just to get the top thing, or to get the hidden pirate stash that's at the top. And it's, oh, he's a retired pirate captain. And this is where he kind of, sailed off into the sunset at. Because I think that's sometimes too, where, I think a lot of fan designers will, there's all these beautiful, intricate photos, but sometimes the best shot of the model might be the 8th photo in the lineup, where it's like, here's the aha moment of the model. And while, you would think from a storytelling standpoint, that's good. You're building up to, here's the best shot of the image. And this is the selling point of the model. But what ends up happening is a lot of people will click through the first couple images and then they'll never get to that one, right? So sometimes, it might be counterintuitive to put a very detailed close shot as the second image, but it kind of like grabs you back in, right? And it's like, oh, wait, what's going on here? I got to figure out what this is from. Why is this here? And then you can look at all the other images. But maybe so I think some of the story type things that can be accomplished through the description, the title of the model, and then maybe how you arrange the renders.
And typically that was my last shot in the submission.
Okay. And then, yeah. And then for a majority of it, like as long as there's, nothing in here that you're like, oh, I think I need to make sure like the sticker usage, for example, perfect, right? It's going to have some things that are kind of piratey within it. And then I think maybe something you need to think about yourself is, do you want this to be a pirate model, or is this supposed to be just kind of a generic, old-timey type of model too? Because then that could influence the part count, or sorry, not the part count, the which other models that it's up against in that category, if that makes sense. So
yeah, definitely, because that was one of the feedback that someone figured out it was about pirates. I don't know how, because when you talked about it, I thought, but okay, can you please tell me how you figured that out? Okay, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, and since we are all talking about the part count, one thing that taught me at some point to refine some of the elements I would like to review at some point, namely the rock work, the beach, maybe the tree. I'm not a big fan of vine tree at the moment. Is that at some point the part count started to skyrocket.
Yes.
And so I have some ideas to review that at some point. And I was wondering if that was actually an issue to try to go some threshold. Sorry, and in that case, what would be, in your opinion, let's say, one or two more things that would make a significant difference to the model? Let's say you have Bastien, you have to review that. It would definitely change the layout. That tree, for instance.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say you're probably going to be somewhere in the rock work and the grass that's above it. All of the slope and the tiling that's done here, I think there's probably just more efficient ways of capturing that. It might even be as simple as just being plates instead of everything being slopes. Because I guess where my mind immediately goes, and maybe I might be in the minority on this one, but all of the terrain and base of the model is done with plate work, and then all of a sudden it transitions to slopes up here, which to me is a completely different medium per se. So if the whole base was done this way, then I would say it fits right in with it. But since this is already done with plate work down here, it probably wouldn't stand out as much. And also you would lose a lot less elements over here if this was plated off per se. Now for the rock work itself, like, yes, it looks like it's pretty part heavy. And so there might just be ways to refine it and try to use larger elements. I mean, there's the larger rock elements you could potentially use as well. There's a lot of ways to dress those up so they don't look like they're the actual, the burps and the lerps and that kind of stuff. There's ways to, let's see what we have for rock. There's some of these larger rock panels. There might be ways to get around to build these into your model, but then add other parts on top of them so they don't look like this, right? You're just using it. You have a first layer here, and then the second layer is also adding parts. You're basically building two walls, right? And you could use larger elements like this to be the back wall and then build on top of that to create the texture that you see here. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. I just bought a bunch of them 2 days ago. So yeah.
Oh, perfect. See, well, there you go. You're already there. I guess if we can be some affirmation for you, then our job is done too. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And the two interesting things I'll get from you today is that title and picture matters, just to prepare the audience to, hey, this is what you're about to see. And I think that's something I didn't thought of before, so thank you for that. And you're definitely right about the, I think at least, the different plating, let's say ground texture. There are two different styles here. Maybe one should be enough, one way or another.
Good.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for joining. All right. Now.
Put me in, coach.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing today?
Let's see if my camera works. There it is. A little bit too high, but still plays the thing. I don't feel like being on camera, but I can have my
All
sig
good.
pick for it.
Oh,
No
nice.
worries. Nice.
So yeah, this is my submission. This is what I
Whoa.
wrote out. It's technically half the size of this because I laid it down in a way where you guys could just see the 2 points of it.
Okay. Is
Like
there
if you
a
would like-
spot you would like to start in?
I think I would like to start specifically on the carrying wagon, which is the central piece, like the one that has the palisades and the not palisades, or yeah, that one, yeah, the little
This one?
No, a little bit above that one in the center.
that.
Yeah, this one, yeah, and its side built and its other configuration is next to it, behind where you currently are.
Okay.
Next to the stakes. No, next to the stakes. That one's another wagon. But yeah, essentially, I wanted to ask. Mine were a little bit more of a general feedback rather than specific. Oh yeah, how can I do this? There's a couple changes I've already done specifically on structurally, but I wanted to start first with I guess the concept of the set that I wanted to submit is that it's a wagon convoy. It's a war wagon convoy that each wagon sort of like deploys into a sort of like defendable little fort. Essentially you would lay these out in like a line, and it would act as a little wall. Essentially, it's a movable fort, to put it somehow.
Cool.
And I wanted to ask roughly in general, do you think a concept do you think a concept like this has a chance in BDP? Do you think that that's something that it's a little bit more than just one build? Because whether or not that's whether or not that's any general feedback about the set, the concept, etc.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, Siege Encampment. Siege Encampment proved you could make a what was it, $230 set out of a whole bunch. It's a giant battle pack, really. So yeah, anything is possible, right? And to that point, BDP is a place where the things that would never be able to be a core portfolio item can flourish, right? Where selling 7,000-8,000 sets is still successful, right? So that's I wouldn't worry about it from that perspective. The perspective that I would worry about is the part count right for what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah,
so
I was thinking within like 2,600 to 2,900, closer to the Siege Encampment part count. I was aiming for having 9 minifigures because the issue is I want a good minifigure to wagon ratio, so that way all wagons at least can be manned.
My advice for that would be, I wouldn't let your part count be driven off of minifigure count, because I think that's something that the fan community should at least have a good understanding of at this point, is that the minifigure count is fully adjustable afterwards, right? The only reason that we put minifigure counts in place, and maybe we can up some of those numbers, but because I think maybe sometimes it's too limiting. But the reason that those are in place is so that things don't just turn into battle packs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, that's kind of what happened with Siege Encampment, but that's because it kind of necessitated it, right? Where the opposite side of that is Lost City, where it's a 3,000 plus part set, and there's only 2 minifigures in it, because it's an abandoned, ruined. It's ruins, right? So it'd be really weird if there are 12 people in there or 12 minifigures.
Yeah, no,
right?
absolutely.
It'll be a tourist site.
Yeah, it's a tourist site essentially. Yeah, so it's like, all right, what those are things that we will adjust to make sure that it makes sense with the set. So I wouldn't let that dictate how much parts you're going to include the model. I would have your model be based off of where you think it would be most successful. And then should that fan community really like that, then we will add the minifigures that it needs. Right.
That's fair.
So hopefully that's and I think that's great advice for everyone as a whole. Don't just design your part just because there's so many minifigures in it. I mean, that's something that, again, it's been a general guideline, but we should probably revisit it because there is no limitation. We just do that so that, there's not a 400 part model and it's 40 minifigures.
Yeah.
Right? It artificially gets voted way high up, and it's like, well, it's just because it's all minifigures. Like that's not kind of the point of what we're trying to do here. So, yeah.
But yeah, in general, what part of that question was supposed to go for is also like what do you think are some things I could do to heighten its chances of succeeding? You guys have more of a guys have been designing things for a while, so it's been so it's always a good a good question to ask someone who's been at this for so long.
So what I would try to do with this is, so I don't know, I'm trying to kind of pick it apart to say like, here, what is one whole set rather than this is all, to my knowledge, right? This is not all one whole set, right? There's just multiple copies of things, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's multiple copies of things because I kind of wanted to show, hey, this is how it's deployed, how it's not deployed. So, for example, those two wagons on the back that looks the same is because they're the same wagon. Only one.
Okay, so you would remove one of these. All right.
Yeah, you would remove one of these.
I think one of these from the.
Yeah, that's another thing I was gonna ask later. That's a surprise to help us later.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what I would do is I would make it so that it's like 5 or 6 modules long or long. I would keep it in a 15 to, I don't know, 1500-ish, maybe
2000.
a little bit 2000. Yeah, depending on how you do it. I would say you're gonna be better off, in my opinion, keeping it on the smaller scale if it's just wagons the whole way through. Like
it's wagons and terrain. The idea is that it's wagons, terrain, and a couple deployable things aside of those wagons. The idea is that once they're deployed, the little stakes turn into the little palisades that are on the right, and you can use that to fill in the gaps between the wagons. There's going to be little panels that you put in front of the wagons to cover the wheels, so that way you can not shoot through. And the terrain, the idea is that either the concept is I have a terrain that the idea is I want the terrain to look good on its own and then have a purpose. So, for example, a piece of terrain that's unassuming suddenly turns into a table, suddenly turns into a tent.
Yeah, I think that's what is nice about this. Where I don't know if these aren't the same, but I'm just going to use this as a description here. Is that like, this terrain is great. You can probably harvest some parts from it in a sense to make some of this tiling just more efficient. But in a sense, like the little bits of terrain that exist because there's something that goes down on top of it when it's unpacked. Right, and then you have the packed up version that then goes into the wagon, and so maybe the wagon is 3 trains long or whatever it needs, or carriages long, whatever it needs to be. But then just be as efficient as possible. But then also, like you said, you're adding this this layer of play to it, right? Which is if everything has a reason for why it's there, then it can justify that part count, right? So when you look at something like Siege Encampment, the parts, there's not a lot of filler, right? Everything is there for a reason. It's specifically there for a reason. So if you do that, then that will help guide you in the right way.
Yeah. And the last, I realized that one of my questions kind of ended up blending into the other question, which was the part size, along with general feedback. So the last question I had is also, I wanted to ask, how do you think it would be a good idea to present the model itself? Like from just we were talking about images before. It's like, how do you think it's best to promote and show this kind of like play features. Also, how also if you've seen the play features that I've added, how could is there anything you would refine on them in regards to, for example, the little flip out gun battery over there at the top, or the little one, or the ornate, that one, that's
Okay.
the little set with a roof turns into the other one that's next to it.
Yeah.
That has like the little pavises and the little no, the one in front of it, like
This one.
Yeah, that one turns into the one right across it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you were going to display it, you want it displayed and it's fully like put out. It's fully set up camp, right? Or, you know, as it's set up as the fort. And I think this is also something too that I think goes that gets kind of lost sometimes, is that when you're showing your models, there should be life in the model, right? Like if you go through some of there's a lot of buildings that have been submitted to past series where there's no minifigures on the outside of it. All the minifigures are all staged inside the model, and so you don't see them. And so it just looks like it's just a barren model. There's no life with it, right? But if you look at any of any of the marketing photos for a modular set, or you know, any other themed series or set, they're going to have minifigures posed, and there's going to be action and some kind of story, and it looks like it's a world lived in, right? And so that's what I would just make sure with whatever cover image you're going to do, it shows this is a lived in world. This is what's happening, right? That draws people in, and then they're going to go look at, oh wow, that looks really cool. I wonder what that is. Oh wow, that train packs up. That's even cooler. Right. So building that out, that's kind of the way that I would go.
Just to add a little like bonus tiny question. The set's supposed to have like 6 horses because it's going to be like 3 trains of wagons, because there's going to be 6 of them, or 7 of them actually. Do you guys think that would be a problem when it comes to, because I know you guys said oh yeah, include animals as it makes sense, and I'm like, yeah, but am I pushing it with 6 horses?
It would be pushing. It wouldn't make sense if it was like a corral and there were 6 horses in it, right? That would be like, all right, put 1 or 2 in there. There is no limit on it, but it is one of those things where it's like, just use, you know, it's rational. Right, that if there are wagons being pulled by horses, then you need the amount of horses to pull the wagon.
Yeah, you can't have 2 horses pulling 8 wagons.
Right.
Yeah.
So as long as that makes sense, that's good. You know, because it's like same thing gets said about like minifigures being used as statues or skeletons. It's like, don't put 400 skeletons in the model. If there's a crypt, like put 2 or 3 in there. You know, you can put more if they're meant for decoration or if there's a purpose for them. Or it's like, let's say it's a skeleton army. Yeah, then you can probably have more. But you know, it's just as long as there's a reason for everything, then that's great.
But yeah, and just one question. I messaged this in the board, but just to test the little palisades over there, like the little stakes. They're based. They're supposed to be a nod at the siege encampment. They're the same build style. I just wanted to know if this that could be a problem from a qualification standpoint, on whether or not, because it's 5 parts put together. I thought it would be like a cool way to add stakes and also to tie it into other things implicitly, not just explicitly say it. But I didn't know if it's a.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it would be a disqualification thing, because there is a part of like, you are in universe, right? Like I think some of the questions that we had there's been feedback for, let's say, the medieval seaside market, that the architecture, the cornices at the top of the building are not the same as the Lion Knight Castle. And the fan designer was like, well, I made them different because I didn't want it to be the exact same as the official model. But I think there's a point where it's like, well, if the lore exists and that is something that is used in universe, then yeah, it would make sense that some of the things would be exactly the same. I wouldn't say, and I think the other feedback was that it shouldn't be the majority of the model is this. So if you had, you know, if it was a camp and all of your walls were made this way, then I would say like, yeah, you're using this like 20% of your model. That's a problem. My gut feedback would be, don't do the exact same base styling. Like, don't just make it 100% copy. Like, make it maybe it's a different size. Maybe it's a different, where this is just the you have two of them here separate. Maybe it's one bigger all together, right?
So no, don't worry. I have a third. I have a third one that's a corner one that has like a lot of it.
Different color or different spear.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways around it in a sense, but I would say, given that it is something that's kind of like, this is in the lore now, right? So this is in the lore of BDP castle submissions. So it is. I would say it's generally okay to have a little bit of that, because that creates that link, and that link is what is good to have, that kind of thread through that universe. So.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, good stuff, guys. Thank you very much for holding this. It's very helpful.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right. We'll go on to the next. All right. All right. So Colby.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thanks for having me. My questions are a little bit more technical than the design itself. So I'm not sure what you can actually show during this seminar and stuff like that. But obviously, the first question was, I had this in my previous model. So if anyone kind of looks at it, you could look at the last series and look up the Surf Shack and kind of see what I'm working with here. But I just wanted to more isolate the particular technical questions. So I did it last time and I was managed to be successful. I don't know how I can do it this time. It's with this 5-link chain. And it's meant to wrap around the surfboards, and that's what keeps these loose items in place, right? To give the pieces some stabilities. But I'm having real trouble this time actually manipulating the chain to actually wrap around them, and it's causing collision errors. And I'm wondering if there's some techniques that you guys know that sort of like help to sort of like manipulate these flexible parts in certain ways.
Yes. So one point of clarification, are you using the public release studio or are you using early access?
I'm not too sure. It's the one that I just downloaded from the
okay, so you're
website.
using public release. Okay. And there's a good reason for this, is because there are new flexibility tools in the early access version right now. So we're kind of in this awkward stage where flexibility is getting a complete rebuild because of issues like this, where chains, for example, are quite difficult to work with, and it's a lot of trial and error. Now, just as a kind of general housekeeping point of reference here, because this collides, this isn't something that would be like, oh, can't pick this model. This is like, we know flexible elements are not a strength in Studio right now, and there's a lot of active development going into that to make that easier to use. So you will see some fan designers will create custom parts in Part Editor to address some of these things because they want it to be perfect for the render. But I would say, again, like stickers, it doesn't need to be perfect, right? You're showing what that what you're intending to do. Now, with that said, what you can see here is, right now in flexible elements, you can see it already moved. So when you're using these elements, right, it's kind of all over the place. And what I've found that I do is sometimes it feels like there's a little bit of gravity with them. And so what I will do is I will select the model, and I'm just going to turn it so that it's facing down. And I feel like sometimes this is a little bit easier. And then I can say this first part here, let's pull it down. Yeah, my camera angle.
Are you using early access or?
This is an early access. I'm going to pull up early access in a second. But see, now I can get that down so that it's in the right orientation. This one's pretty close. But then that should allow you to get a little bit closer. Yeah, see, we're still. There it goes.
In the middle.
Yeah. Do you have early access open? Okay. Do you want to take over and you can show? Because I think we've kind of got the point across that there's a little bit of finagling that needs to happen with this in this format. And then
I actually used this method to get it how I had. That was the best I could get it with gravity.
Okay.
The other solution
Well, here, one sec, because
no worries.
we'll go and show you the early access version. So we're going to pull up Rick's screen here.
So I pulled up your model here and have the early access, and it's available on BrickLink.com. You just have to scroll down to the bottom on the download page.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of these features will be coming very soon, like within weeks, to the public release version of Studio as well. So you can see when you hover over these chain links, you'll see there's actual individual nodes now, and you can kind of pull and play with them, and they still have a little bit of flexibility in them. So I think one of the other things that needs to be done, if you wanted it to be 100% perfect, the actual studs that anchor on, those have to be probably rotated a little bit, so you gain a little bit of distance, because like right now they're at 90%, or sorry, 90%, 90 degrees. And if you turn it so that it's 75 degrees or something like that, that extra little space will definitely help, because all you're adjusting is you're getting the distance is shorter. It's just to be higher up.
No, yeah, that's what I was going to suggest as my second solution, but I couldn't turn both of them inwards. I could only seem to turn one inwards, and then I had problems as I was trying to turn the other one into there, that it would start flipping around and moving the whole thing around as well.
And now
they didn't seem to have an option where, now that it's on this bar, there's no like rotate function where I just individually like rotate the end piece around. So, but yeah, I mean, this looks like a good enough for me, to be honest. Like it was just that there was that part that was really disappearing into the surfboard. So this is more for a rendering issue.
Yeah.
So I think this would be satisfactory for me.
It's good, because it actually, as we were playing around with this, it's something that we realized is that, yes, one, I think what you just mentioned, when you adjust one, the other one adjusts with it, that's a problem. They should be independent of each other. So that's something we're sharing with the developers and the studio team, and say, hey, we need to make sure that when you go to adjust and rotate one, the other one doesn't turn with it. It should be independent, right? Because it is an independent part. But right now it's recognizing it as the same one. So if you try to rotate that one, watch, it rotates the other. So yeah. That shouldn't be happening like that. So
I mean, these are very small issues. Like I said, it's I know it works in a real build, so it's more just how I'm presenting it. And I wouldn't even say it would affect whether people are going to like it or not. It's just I'm particular about these things. And
that's perfect. That's why we're here. So this is one other type of feedback that we can provide here, right? Is we're getting build related feedback, but also like some of this is also around technical things, right? Because there are certain things that people might encounter where it's like, oh, how do we do this, or how do we do that, or what's the best way to probably to make this work. So yeah, I'm very happy to address these questions.
Would be better with the hose, or not hose, a string.
The string, but string doesn't have a through hole. String doesn't have a through hole, but the chain looks good. It looks great. It's just this is a studio limitation, but fortunately that's going to be fixed in the next. Or I should say the new flexibility tool is coming. So yeah. So if you want to play around with it, it is in the early access version that is available for all to use. That will just be in the public release version here shortly.
Perfect, thank you.
And it doesn't affect your studio file. We can open it the same. It's no different. So there's no compatibility issues or anything like that you need to worry about. Cool. Okay. And then you said you had a question about hiding parts in submodels and renders.
Oh yeah, So it's the middle section where it's got the wall and the trees and the patio. So there's a couple of questions in that. So this is a section that I'm kind of working on where I've got quite a bit of like foliage on the trees. And so when I'm doing renders, there's this like little picnic setting underneath. Obviously it doesn't have all the details in this image, and it's getting shadowed quite a lot. And so I've been trying to work around with some of the settings in the lighting, particularly the angles and stuff like that. But it takes a while to render, and usually I'm only working on a model like half an hour or an hour when I find time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I don't have time to just sit there and do render after render. So since we're having this opportunity, I was wondering if you had any advice about what is the best way to sort of like angle the light directions to sort of like get underneath things. I said previously I've hidden things. And that's been a way of how I've got light in. But obviously with this particular image, I can't hide the trees because they're actually a part of the render. They're part of the image that you would need to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you need to have there's like multiple light sources. I think is one of the options. Multiple light sources. I know what a lot of people will do, or I should say a lot of fan designers, the really good, or sorry, some of the ones that you see that are just like, whoa, how did they do that? I think it's usually done in Blender or some other kind of like After Effect. Because there's a lot of times where we're like, whoa, that's way beyond anything that we're even doing in studio, right? Because it's a little bit more generic use rather than professional use. But yeah, because let's see.
Because it's not really changing the shadows.
Yeah, it's always going to be based off of the camera view, right? So, yeah. I thought there was a function that you could add a secondary light source. Because there's light follows camera, so you can turn that off.
But it's not changing this image. I think it's something we could ask Vincent for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can have a secondary. If it's not already in there, then we can see if we can add a development for a secondary light source. So that way, or like kind of light from all angles, so that you don't have shadows on the model. Is there a way to remove? Isn't there also something to remove shadows?
That's just.
Or is that the shadow?
I think that's the shadow of the model. So that
model.
If you're putting it on an image, it casts like a floor shadow.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll take note of that and see if that's something that could be added into the render function, because it should be pretty straightforward to have multiple angles of light in case or to have different studio views.
Yeah, someone in the chat said that there's an article, so I might just Google that and see if it's got some suggestions about, just to sort of like, I guess, lower the angle of the light direction a little bit, just so it creeps under those leaves and actually gets underneath. That's all I'm really trying to do. But I did ask a question about like making parts invisible or hidden, I should say, when taking renders. So it's not noticeable when you're looking at the image. So sometimes, because this was a little shack, sometimes I'd hide one wall just so you could see inside, but not from a bird's eye view. Is that perfectly acceptable in terms of submissions?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't see any issue with it. The only thing that we try to say with submissions and hiding things or including things is if it's not included in the model and it's like a reference. Like I think in the past people would put like grayed out buildings or something to show like this is what it goes next to.
Okay. Yeah.
Those are the things that we typically try to stay away from. But yeah, the only other thing I was thinking about is, as long as you keep the angle the same, and you could accomplish it by hiding, like let's say you hid the background, or well, it's not all one submodel, but if you hid all of the elements in the background, you could render the tree out individually. And then if you render it with a transparent background, you could stitch everything back together.
Good point.
So that would be a way to do it as well if you were to layer it together from an image standpoint, because I know that is another trick that some fan designers use. They will layer images so that each part is rendered individually. And that allows for your camera lighting to be ideal on each of the models. So, so here specifically, you could just render one tree out and then as long as if everything's in the same, if everything's in submodels, it's really easy to keep the camera angle the same, right?
Yeah.
And you're just hiding images, or you're just hiding parts or unhiding them based on what you want to be rendering for that specific image, and then they'll be the same scale.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another option.
Yeah, they are submodels in my actual build. I just sort of put this together for this.
Yeah, all good, all good. I was just meant for Rick as he's going through, trying to do it in stream. Cool.
Okay, thank you. And final question, although I might have an additional sort of like 3A and 3B to this question, is because something popped up really recently over the weekend.
Okay.
So my first question was about words on stickers, because, there's advice about trying to limit words because not everybody speaks English and, all that sort of idea. So, I mean, the main one is like, obviously I've seen printed parts in Lego that you can purchase itself where it says things like menu. So I'm assuming the one on the left that says rentals is probably perfect, right? And also in context that this is a surf rental shop, I wouldn't think that would be limiting to people of other languages. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do the street signs because I think maybe it's unnecessary detail, but what about like something like this, which is clearly like another, because this is Hawaiian or Polynesian, right? So are there any issues with things like that using like other languages other than English?
No.
Okay.
Maybe just not the avenue in the bottom corner here. That would be very hard to see.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into like real technical details because like there's a point of like how much detail you can actually have on the sticker, and then because we have to leave like a millimeter gap around all edges too for cutting. So, like that av might be too small to add on there.
That's fine. Yeah.
But that's on the technical side of things. That's not, something that you need to be worried about. But yeah, other languages is totally fine. Like for example, Parisian Street has, I think everything should be in French on the model because that makes sense, right? In sushi restaurant, it's all Japanese.
Well, that's what I was hoping in context, right? Because again, this is a street sign, so even if you didn't understand the word, you understand it's a street sign. But just quickly, I know we probably need to move on, but it did happen over the weekend where I'm having problems actually applying decals onto stickers in Parts Designer, and I didn't know if this was a known issue to you guys. And they're not even difficult parts. They're like a 4x4 tile and a 6x6 tile. Everything's working fine. I can position it, I can resize it, but when I go to click the little check mark to actually apply it, the whole decal just disappears. And so it doesn't actually save into the studio file. Or I can't export it to the studio file. It will just export as though I'd never applied a single decal. So I just wanted I'm not expecting you to solve it, but I just wanted to highlight that to you guys. And I'm wondering if that's something that potentially other users are having problems with. I did also the reinstall as well. So I uninstalled everything, reinstalled it.
Yeah. You unplugged the router and plugged it back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On and off again.
Yeah. No. But in all seriousness, yes, we'll talk to the studio team on that, and we can figure out what's going on with that because that obviously has an impact. So we'll find out what's going haywire with it in the interim.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I think we can go to the next one. Oliver. All right. And then, we'll just keep it on your screen. That's fine.
Oliver, not.
All right.
Oh, he didn't respond. I don't think he's here.
Has Oliver joined?
No, we could skip to
Okay.
the next
We can skip Oliver for now, and then if he comes back, if he joins later, then we can
Nate? Oh no,
come back.
We don't have the model for Nate.
That's fine. If is Nate here? Was it Nate? Yes.
Nate's not here either. No.
We can go to Stefan. I see Stefan's
Yeah,
here.
Stefan's here.
Cool.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey, good to see you.
Okay, and can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, I hear you just fine.
Perfect. How are you guys doing?
Right. Doing well. Good chatting with you again, and it's another one of our past BDP finalists. Stefan was the fan designer for Snack Shack. It's been a minute. So
Yeah,
it's good to
yeah,
see you again.
definitely. Yeah, and I worked on the model with Rick, of course, which was a great pleasure. And let's see what we come up with for Series 9.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
It's actually a like a next chapter in the story of the Snack Shack.
All right.
So,
oh,
but
I
yeah,
like that.
but I didn't want to show the whole model. There's just one part I'm like not too sure about, and it's really a technical part, which I wanted to discuss. Yeah. Should I just ask a question?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. As we can see here, this part of the build is mostly studs not on top, and the building technique is quite an unusual one, that you slide in the red 1x2 bricks from the top. And I just wanted to check. There's a tile below the lowest 1x2 brick. Everything will be clamped in, but I just wanted to check if it is a valid building technique to just like the game Connect 4.
Yeah, where they drop in.
Yeah, it's exactly the same for this. And I wanted to check if that was okay.
Yeah, because the logo still doesn't touch.
Yeah. So where that would be an issue
So
is
I built it.
if you were to so from a technical standpoint, yes, it's definitely doable, because the only thing that wouldn't be allowed is if the studs ran into the top of that part, which again, this part's designed to have studs be on top of it. So there's no issue there. There's the gap that exists there. Now, because they are loose per se, right? They are still locked in place. If there is a tile that is below them and something retaining them from the top, they're secured, right? There are many builds where you'll find examples of something that is a friction fit, or it is inserted one way and then it is locked in place because another element is put there to prevent it from pulling out, essentially. So totally fine. I think that would definitely work. And also, too, as a good point, that's a great novel idea, right? In the sense of, this is a great technique or use of parts, and so therefore, something that we try to encourage is try to use parts in ways that aren't commonly used. And that's another little thing that people see that are like, that's really cool, I want to build that, right? Because it's
that's always the goal I like to achieve. I like to achieve when people look at something and think like, okay, how was that built? And they really have a hard time finding out how it was built. And I think this was a bit tricky because I wasn't too sure about it. But if it works out, I'm really happy with that.
I will say one thing though. I highlighted the back bricks blue. If you're gonna use these red bricks to slide things in, the bricks in blue cannot be printed elements or elements with stickers on it.
Very cool.
No, they are just plain white bricks in this case.
Just slide stuff in and.
Yeah, and okay, that's all I wanted to ask. That's the only point I want to make. And I'm working on the instructions now for the model, and I can't wait to show it.
Excellent. And a great point here with the instructions too, because this is something I try to bring up on the webinars as well. As I understand that there are fan designers that take a lot of great pride in making the instructions perfect, and they're formatted. There's the page setup, and then there's the actual view of the step. They do not need to be, right. They do not need to be perfect in a sense where they've got this awesome formatted background. I saw one that had like a pirate map as the whole background for everything, and each page was perfectly laid out.
That's really classic though.
It is classic, but I also look at it and like, unless you want to do that if you're doing that for yourself, that's great. That's your own thing, but don't feel like that is the expectation of us. We actually just thumb through the step editor view, where we'll just in the this, for example, In this view, if you just hit generate steps,
sure.
There we go. Then, this is how we go through and we look at everything. So we're not even opening up the page design page. Yeah, it just takes too long. So when we're going through and looking at hundreds of models, we're just looking at this page.
You're not going to the page design because I've
not usually. No.
With like Samurai Castle, I had huge problems with the turning the pages, and I took hours to solve that. And
don't kill yourself with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't worry about it because we don't really look at it. We will look at this, and then we'll see how things are put together. Because if everything's broken into steps, that's what we want to look at.
General build flow, not like here, then over here, then you're skipping going over there. Okay. Like gradual build up, so it is physically buildable.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you can. It's A and D, right? Yeah, it's A and D. Yeah. Okay. We're at the end already. Because I will go through, because you can see how fast you can go through this, right? Yeah. Like that, you can see when we're going through hundreds of steps and we're doing that for hundreds of models, it's a lot of time, right? So for us, and really, if I'm not worried about, do you have your turn arrows and all of these things, because they don't need to be professional instructions, because again, the models they're gonna change ever so slightly, but when you make one change, you know how much effect that has on all the downstream instructions, right? So in the interest of time and your time and our time, we just don't really look at it that much. So don't put too much effort into that. And I think this is not just for you, but for everyone. That's hopefully some words of wisdom in that.
Yeah.
We focus on that, and the parts are in the right steps. And then that we can generally see, oh, okay, I see how that was assembled. Yep, that looks good. Doesn't have to be perfect again, but we can see that was thought put into it, right?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I can't wait to show you the final model.
We're excited.
Nice.
Yeah, to give you a bit of a sneak peek, the roles are changed. So the guy in the snack shack is returning, but he's on his free time right now. And the girl who was the customer is working right now. So yeah, we'll see what we come up with.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Good chat with you, Stefan. See ya.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
All right. Are we going to Oliver or Ollie? Oliver? All righty.
Hello? Oh. Got it. What are the rules regarding stress and flexible elements like hoses?
Okay. Yeah. So Oliver's joining through chat. There we go. There's a chat.
What are the rules regarding stress or flexible?
Yeah, we'll give him another minute. If he doesn't join, then we can always move on to the next person and then come back. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We're a couple hours into this. We're bound to have someone that had something else going on and needed to step away. Still a few more minutes. Okay, yeah. All right. So Oliver, no worries. We can come back. Then we'll go to Basil.
Basil?
Is it Basil or Basil?
I mean, it could be Basil or Basil. Depends on your accent. Basil's fine.
Well, it's great chatting with you, and love all your builds. Thank you for participating with BDP.
So yeah, I'm not exactly sure where to go with this. Like, I'm already at under 3,000 bricks, and it already looks pretty good. I just don't know how to make it better.
Mm-hmm. Is it so? The idea that you are trying to, I assume it looks generally like the whole thing folds up, right? It's a 180-degree fold.
It does fold up and it comes apart. So
okay.
You can there's clips in the middle, so you can take them apart. So.
Oh, and interesting. So that it actually is 100% complete regardless of or
I
when
have
it's
a
folded up?
full. I have full instructions on it already done.
Wow, excellent. Okay, so your questions then are, is it around, all right, so the amount of parts that you're at right now is probably more than fine. I would say, you know, obviously with Castle, there's no issue with being up in the 4,000 part range. It's just, you know, what is the theming of, or I shouldn't say the theme, the context of the model. Obviously with Castles, or it being a castle, that allows you to be up in that upper echelon, that 3,000 to 4,000 part range. So the next thing I would say is, okay, so it looks like,
I'm trying to hinge it. Not engine.
yeah, I don't know why. Sometimes it does that where it's like, well, we're just going to take the small
I
part.
wanted it
and
all
do
to be like one wall, but that's really cool though.
Okay. But then looking at it, it looks like it's, is it the Kraken? Or not Kraken?
No,
sorry,
this
Griffin.
is Griffin.
It's Griffin, yeah.
But it does have Kraken Knights.
I was looking at the Krakens and just Freudian slipped of wrong one.
I do include a siege engine for the Krakens though. Well, it's a catapult.
Yeah,
It's
I do like
supposed to
that.
look like an octopus. So
yeah. I was kind of getting that. It's kind of, yeah, it does look like an octopus, but it's also kind of you know, could be like a seaweed monster type thing. Yeah, cool.
I'm trying to go for a realism on this.
Yeah. So yeah, so the idea is, are you? I think you're heading down the right track, right? In the sense of picking a new, since there are new factions, having something dedicated to a faction that doesn't have something done for it already, right? Where I think, you know, if you were to do like if you look at Mountain Fortress was, it was designed to be the Black Knight or the Black Falcons stronghold, right? It's their keep. If you did it as a Lion Knights faction, it probably wouldn't have been as successful as it was in voting. But that doesn't mean that because there's been a Black Falcons model done before, that there wouldn't be another one selected and the fan community wouldn't vote for something else done that way. And that is why you see Siege Encampment, perfect example. It's something completely different, even though it's the same faction, it's something completely different. Same with Medieval Seaside Market, it's Lion Knights. Lion Knights been done multiple times, right? In the sense of there's the Lion Knights Castle and then there's Medieval Town Square. But because it's something Lion Knight faction, but it's its own new thing, then that made sense, right? Or it still got the amount of votes you would expect it to get, right? It wasn't getting kind of a detractor because it's already been done, or that faction's already been done. So I think here by focusing on the Griffin Knights and this being their stronghold, then that is a benefit on your side. What I would challenge you to think about is what makes the Griffin Knights unique and will hopefully make this stand out from other Griffin Knight castles that are submitted. So are there potentially, you know, small builds on the side, or, you know, it looks like it's kind of built up on a cliff, or you know, it's on raised terrain, right? That makes sense. But because of Griffins, you would think maybe like rocky, craggier type terrain, you know, you're thinking a little bit more mountainous, but maybe there's some other features that you could
sorry,
go ahead. You're good.
So in the top above the doors, there's supposed to be a centerpiece there. I just hid that for now.
Okay.
But there is supposed to be a centerpiece right there.
Okay. Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. So don't give away all your secrets yet.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, in general, I would just say, yeah, think about what are those things that will elevate it. Because right, it's nice to have each faction for them to have their kind of their stronghold, their castle, their main base. And then what about that will make it make sense, or why that makes sense that is their base. You know, so for example, when you go back to Outlaw Forest Den for the Wolfpack, there were a lot of really cool Wolfpack models that were submitted. But because Wolfpacks are bandits, I think generally the fan community tended to vote more on the smaller Wolfpack models because they're bandits. Why would they have a giant castle? Right. Like they should have like a little hidden outpost type of thing.
I've always been a fan of like small Wolfpack designs.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's all relevant based on what type, what faction you're focusing on, and for example, like if there's Kraken Knights, it's perfect that their siege equipment has a little bit more of a nautical focus with it, right? Like if someone was to make a Kraken castle and it didn't have any water, or it was in the middle of the desert, it'd be like, well, that's kind of weird. That doesn't make any sense. Like it's really cool, but it doesn't really. It's just missing that little bit of extra to tie it all together. So,
right, and then I mean, so like the brick count you think is fine at the moment? I think it's like 2,700 something.
Is it? Wow. If it's at 2,700, it's a lot lower than I thought it was. So
2,700, but without his centerpiece, right?
Yeah. Right. All right. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried keeping it low. It's just hard because I don't know what to cut anymore or what to add.
Yeah. No. And that's part of it though, is that like you might cut so far that it's no longer the same model that it was before, right? It's the bare bones version of what it was. And in some cases that's a good thing. In some cases that's a bad thing. And you kind of completely take yourself out of what makes it a great model. So, no, I think as long as you are happy with where you're, don't feel like, I think like it's 30, I wanted it to be 3,000, but it ended up being 3,500. As long as you are happy with it and comfortable that that 500 parts was worth it, then you're not going to have a problem, right? Castle's the one theme where it's like 4,000 is going to be fine. You just have to know that it's going to be really hard because there's going to be a lot of 4,000 part castle sets, right? And then all other 4,000 part castle sets. Whereas this at 2,700, you don't move that needle very much, right? You're only 200, 300 parts off center. And that case, if let's say the highest voted set is non-castle and it's it's the 4,000 part range, like you're in the money right there, right? Because it doesn't matter whether the next set is 2,200 parts or 2,700 parts, they could both be that, and you cancel each other out and you're right there at the 2,500 average. So in general, things that are between 2,000 and 3,000 parts don't move the needle a whole lot and have a higher likelihood of being included just because they're not outliers or they don't move the needle too much. Like generally there's one small set and one big set. Sometimes there's two big sets because there was two small sets that were high enough voted to make that possible, right? So but generally you see it's 3 medium-sized sets. So if you're in that medium count, that's a great place to be.
All right, now, I don't know if this is important, but I make sure all my floors are minifigure accessible. Is that at all important?
I wouldn't say that it's important. It might be important to the fan community, and so therefore, that might be one of those 1%, 2% more vote type things where it's like, oh yeah, this model makes sense, right? Like where people are like, yes, this is very well thought out. And generally, if you're thinking about those things, you're thinking about other things as well, which then in turn just make your model, have a higher chance of success, right? Because you're already thinking about the little things.
Right, because I like making sure it looks good on like on the front or the back. Because I don't like open backs on my models. Like I try closing them like in here, although you can't see it because you guys can't figure out the hinges. But yeah, I try making it look good on all angles.
You could just rotate it 90 degrees. Then you have to. Then you
There you
just
go. That's
place it.
perfect.
Yeah, laying down. It's under construction.
They got sieged by the Fright Knights.
But okay.
Oh, whoops.
Any other questions that you have?
I have a couple of questions regarding BrickLink in general. So would you consider doing a castle only BrickLink contest?
Probably not. And the reason for that would be that it would be all of the same, which is not. I think that's not the intention of the program. The intention of the program is to give fans what they want most, but at the same time to also celebrate, kind of the unique different things that that fan designers are coming up with. So I think right now where we're at, we're pretty much seeing a castle set every series, and that's because it's so popular. I don't know that we would be able to even sustain if it was just all 5 would be castle. Probably a lot of that would die out because it'd be oversaturated. But I think that's something that the Lego group would take on as a core portfolio item rather than BDP doing 5 SKUs of just castle. It makes the most sense that we have it as it's basically 3 a year, maybe 2. There's been 2 series without castle sets. There was series 5. Transylvania's is semi-castle. It's not really castle. It's a mansion, and it's also modern. It's modern times. So, and then was it series 2? Series 2 didn't have a castle set. So yeah, I know. I feel like there's something, and I don't think this is the intention of your question, but I feel like there's a lot of people online that we see from fans just saying that like, it's so much castle, and that's because it's the most popular. So that's what we're getting a lot of submissions on. When we look at voting, like 30 out of the top 50 are castle, right? So it keeps getting chosen because it's most popular.
Right.
But in a sense, we're also trying to do, there's also other things that are becoming popular or are being high enough voted because people are getting tired of castle, right? So that's where we see like series 6 series 7 we saw a bunch of models that probably in other series wouldn't have done as well, but there maybe was more castle fatigue, and so then they got higher voted. So yeah, and that's exciting because then there are things that get made that wouldn't otherwise be made, and so we get to celebrate other portions of the fan community. So
all right, one more point or whatever question.
Yes,
if that's possible. Okay, so considering the brick count, would you say this might compete against 4,000 brick castles, or is it just not there?
they wouldn't compete about 4,000 part castles. They're competing against castles in general. So if so I think I've explained this before in some other webinars, but to do it real quickly here, we will take it's typically the highest voted set, right? Assuming there's no issues, that will be the first set chosen for the finalists, right? And then the same for the second one. But if they're both 4,000 part models, then we need to go down the list to see where's the first small set. And then is there a second small set that is generally in the same area? And then also, are they different themes? Like all 4 of those things have to also be different themes. And if those are all true, then you can have 2 4,000 part sets. That's pretty rare that happens. It's happened once, twice, I think. And by small sets, I mean sub 1,500 parts. You're going to need something in the 800 part and something in the 1,400-ish part range, kind of like what you see with Series 7. Series 8. Series 8 is that way. Yeah, because Dustmark and University of Science are both very large sets. But yeah, so basically what would end up happening is like the past series that have had smaller castle sets, the highest voted set or the number 1 set was non-castle. And so therefore that 4,000 part slot was already taken. And so then you're skipping all those 4,000 part castles and then going to the highest voted set that's, you know, Castle's going to be one of those, but it's like, that's where you get Alchemist Shop and
Seaside Market.
Seaside Market was in there, but that was a weird series too, where all the highest voted sets were all medium size. So we never really even got to a point where we had 4,000 part sets. So that's kind of the exact opposite of that.
Does
but
Mushroom Village count as Castle?
no, it's fantasy. We would say it's like sci-fi fantasy. And as a point of clarification too, sci-fi fantasy space is all one category, but they do not block each other. Castle is the only category where it's one castle set. Doesn't matter what you know, it could be a medieval boat. As if it's a Lion Knight's boat and they're using Lion Knight torsos, that is considered medieval in a sense. So the other ones we will use some justification. So example, series 5 with Mushroom Village. Mushroom Village is sci-fi or is fantasy, right? But so is Dracula's mansion in Transylvania. That is also fantasy. But they are two completely different types of fantasy. So there's enough differentiation. Because otherwise we're gonna end up, it's like saying, well, we can't do multiple buildings. Well, buildings is all one category. As long as it is not the same type of building, or, you know, some things are smaller models where it's like Snack Shack. Is it a vehicle? Is it a building? I don't know. It's somewhere in between. So there's no reason it should block something else from being chosen. So we try to have some subjectivity with that, if that makes sense.
I gotcha.
Cool. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing all of your builds for this series.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, and then next we're gonna go to Ollie.
Oliver?
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Do you prefer Oliver
okay.
or Ollie?
Just Ollie.
Ollie, perfect.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm a little bit late. I had my time zones a little bit switched up because I'm in Germany, and I used yesterday like a time zone calculator online and gave me like the wrong time.
Oh, no worries.
So yeah, I'm sorry for that. And then my camera, I had like this camera here, and it didn't work for some reason, like the software.
That's
all good. All good.
So what you have is like an older version of my build. I don't know. I sent in like a email, I think yesterday evening or something. But it's also good if you don't have like the newest update, because I have actually the build here, like physically.
Oh wow!
Ooh,
very nice.
Love the shaping.
And yeah, my questions. Yeah, that's a bit of a pain, I must say. But yeah, I do have some questions regarding the stability mostly, because I don't have a sail on there yet. But I'm planning to. I mean, I have like a little mock-up here like that.
Okay.
Whoop, it just fell apart. But I have like a very simple mock-up here.
Okay.
And my plan is to add like a big back sail here. That is like almost up until the back of the ship. And the problem that I have right now that I'm working on is that this mast that I have is basically getting pulled backwards by the weight of the thing. And the cleanest solution I found was using these flexible rubber elements, like these flex hoses, to basically anchor. I mean, right now I have it to the front mast, but my idea is to basically anchor them in the deck. Like I have like a Technic structure inside, and my idea is to anchor them in the deck. So we basically have like a triangle here. And I mean, I tried it out like with this build just to see like how much strength this thing has right now. I have like 2 of the hoses. But my question is this even allowed? Like, because I'm like not sure, because those are flexible elements. Like, is it allowed to use these flexible elements as like structure, basically?
You know, I think as is, you would be fine with it. I think the only time it would be an issue is if it was stressing the element, like it was stretching so much that either those given the medium, obviously, because it's all reliant on clutch power. In my experience, it's very difficult to stretch the flexible elements more than before you actually start lifting other parts off of their studs and anti-studs. So
Okay.
typically, in mass, what you'll see is you're actually pulling the mast forward. And so then you can obviously see the stretch because it's bending, right? In this case, just from a
right now.
physics standpoint, you need to have the lines would have to go backwards as well. The rigging would have to go towards the stern of the ship so that it could keep it centered, right?
Counter.
But the other side of that might be, well, we don't actually need that because once you put the sail on there, that weight hanging off of it is it acts as a lever in a sense. And so it's providing the same, it's basically providing the same forces that the rigging would be providing. So
possibly,
yeah, those are one of those things that you just
my
kind of
plan
need to test out to see.
I mean, that's why I'm building this whole thing physically, because I was like, I came up with the design. I was like, is this actually gonna hold? And I started, and it's like a little bit wobbly, but that's just because like those are so long elements, like you can actually pick the whole thing up on the mast. It's like pretty securely anchored in there. But
it might be also too, once you get to the point where you're putting side rigging on, the side rigging will also prevent it from going side to side as well. Like right now, we're talking about it being, the front to back or stern to bow, out of stern. Is that it? Yeah.
I mean, the problem is really like once I attach like this big sail here, it's just gonna pull the whole thing backwards. I mean, I don't know, it's probably gonna be like this roughly.
So I also plan to quite a bit of force. And then I would say, given that is the amount of weight hanging there, those, I don't know that there would be an issue from a technical standpoint on that much weight being too much for the rigging off the front, right? Where it's all of a sudden you're stretching that element because there's so much weight hanging off of it. I'm not 100% sure on that, and we can ask about that. But I would imagine that the element's strong enough that it's not that much weight that they're worried about that being damaging to the elements, over a long period of time.
I mean, I mean, I tested it with like a very makeshift sail just to add some weight here before I had the actual elements. And like there's definitely like a little bit of stress on them, but it's like they're getting just stretched like a little, but I don't think they would break from that or I don't know, like would be destroyed or anything. Like my only issue was like that I could come up with like maybe over time those elements would wear out, and that's why like I don't know, that building technique wouldn't be allowed, for example. If that makes sense. And also like if I were to submit this like with the flexible elements and you guys build it in your offices and like you for some reason say like, oh, that doesn't work. Like my fear is a little bit like that there would be rejected like just because of that.
Typically, no.
Like, would that be a problem?
There's got to be. Oh, so if you go back and watch the recording, there was another designer that we were talking to where we had built their model physically in a previous series, and there were some stability issues. You'll hear some of our dialogue around that. Generally, there's going to be some stability issues. Just quick tangent. Stability within Studio, the Studio app, should be used as a guide to say, hey, let's give this a double check. And like, it says it's red here, but I know I've tested this physically, or I'm looking at it and it's locked in place. There are some minor, errors and that kind of stuff in there. So don't just because it shows it's not stable in Studio, that doesn't mean that it's not stable or that we'll be like, we're rejecting it. It's not stable. We will test build everything before we ever were to reject something. But again, we expect there to be some level of things that we need to adjust. And even in Fortuna, we adjusted the rigging in that because there was things where it was like, it was stretched too much. And that wasn't, that's easy to fix, right? There's all kinds of different ways where you can adjust rigging to whether you lower it a little bit, you raise the sides a little bit, you add another element to the rigging to change the length of it. There's all kinds of options. So as long as when it's built, it's stable. And obviously there's part of it too is like the build flow, right?
Yeah.
The build flow as is might not be something that we would keep as is, but we'll go through, change the build flow, and make it so it's acceptable. So yeah, again, as long as if you've test built it physically in bricks and you're comfortable with it, then we probably would be comfortable with it as well. So
okay, yeah. I mean, I also have like planned to add some sails on the front, but those are like much lighter because it's really just a few plates.
The panels.
Yeah, with the panels. So that's also gonna act like as a counterweight, I guess. And I also have like a few ideas of how to like other ways of how you could fix that a little bit. Like, I don't know, like I was thinking of like maybe adding a little brick built front sail here. So that would basically just provide a structure to hold the whole thing together. Or I don't know, like there's like this Technic element that's like, I don't know, like 16 studs long. It's basically just like an axle with like 2 pinholes at the end. But that is right now, like you can just use that one, but that's not in the palette right now. That's I think the only set that it's available in is like the steamboat, but even that one is like bright red, and that wouldn't work for my rigging.
I know what you're talking about. It's a 16L link. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
that was.
There's probably different ways
like
you can do it. You might also look at Technic panels. There might be a white Technic panel that you can use that has pinholes on either ends, and that would be a way of doing it. So
so I definitely have like some ideas of how to do it. But I just basically wanted to like ask about the hoses, if that's generally like an acceptable thing.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, I mean, okay, that's good. I also have another question that's kind of similar, because I mean, I don't have the picture for that right now, but like the mast is probably going to go up to here somewhere. I don't know. And I want to add like strings that go all the way around.
Yep, that's fine too.
Like usually, like
very
just normal. But my idea was, exactly. But my idea was, would it be okay to add like a small brick built sail, like just made of like a few plates there in between, like a sail that is only basically held up by strings.
Yes, if it's just held up by strings, I'm sure there's a way to do it. I mean, as long as it's all within system, like you're not pinching string between plates and that kind of thing. As long as you're using the system, I mean, you can get very creative with the system. I don't think there's anything. I see the example you sent us. You could definitely do that. It's supported by string. I mean, I understand that it's like you haven't seen that in a Lego, in a core portfolio item, but that doesn't mean it's not allowed, right? So, I think that would be fine.
I mean, the
biggest thing is figuring out the map, make sure it all works out, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm working. Like I have like a little bit of stability issues like with those side panels, but I have like, I don't know, like I have like a mock-up here of like how to do it better, because like the whole thing is pretty filled with like Technic to get like the shape.
Yep.
But that's like the mask is pretty much the thing that I'm still working on.
Cool.
Like stability wise, I think.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Great job. No, it looks. I mean, shaping boat hulls is definitely a challenge in its own. So, from what we've seen so far, you've done a great job with it.
Yeah, I don't know, like. I kind of wanted to get like this bow shape like that, basically.
Yeah, that's quite impressive. Yeah,
and
definitely.
Yeah, and I don't know, like the whole back is basically like everything is like at an angle. There's like not one straight angle other than like maybe the bottom, and like I don't know. It's like I think it's working by now, but was like a little bit of a headache to figure out.
No, very impressive. Very impressive. I
hope I can finish it for.
I'm very excited to see the final result of it.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have access to the images that I sent you yesterday?
Yes. Yep, that's what we're looking at.
Okay, great. I don't know, because I would, if you guys have time, just ask like general feedback. Like I know you can go in depth, but
yeah, we don't. So I don't have. The only thing that I would say is
minifigures.
no, not even the minifigures. I mean, it's. Are you specifically trying to go with a theme like modern or pirate, or is it just going to be open ended where it's more of a time period type thing? Just think about that in the sense of, sometimes if you go just pirate, then you're competing against all of pirate. Whereas if you don't go pirate and you're saying, oh, I'm just want to stay in like early 20th century sailing ship, or I want to be a late 19th century sailing ship or something like that, then it's like now you're only competing against other ships, right? And that's not generally, there's not as many just plain ships as there is pirate.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
So don't
I mean, I was looking at the minifigures.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the minifigures that are available, and there's like really not a lot of pirate stuff right now. Like like I think from the big machine, there's like one pirate figure, and my idea right now is go into like an imperial type of ship, like because you have like the one sort of imperial torso from the girl from big machine, and you can basically exactly, and you could basically make soldiers out of that, and like maybe like do like a soldier ship, and then add maybe 1 or 2 pirates to like counter that and say like, oh, they, I don't know, like try to take over the ship or something, steal the ship.
Yeah.
Like
They're all options.
That I have
It's
right now.
what you choose, right? Because you could go multiple different ways with it. Where like as it is right now, it could be a pleasure sailing ship. It could also be, in an age of exploration. So yeah, it's all
exactly. That was sort of my plan B if like there were like no medieval / pirate figures to populate the thing with. Like I was like, maybe it's just like a timepiece or something that's like sitting in like a harbor where like modern people could like go and visit it.
Yep. Or
That was like my.
It's common
my plan
nowadays.
B,
People are restoring
older
sailing vessels and sailing them. So yeah, or torsos that are maybe early 1900s-ish. Or it could be are ambiguous at what
something like that.
They're not wearing hoodies and that kind of stuff. But okay, great.
But so I think that's it so far.
Excellent.
Thank you, Ollie.
No, great job. Thank you,
Ollie. Maybe one thing. I have like these side panels attached by like just clips right now.
Yes.
And like it's kind of difficult to do to bridge all of those gaps. So I was thinking, would it be would it be okay to just use like a long hose, like as basically just a bar piece?
Yes and no. I think there are some challenges with in some areas. Yes, it is okay to do. You could use it as kind of like the spine of a book per se. Yes, you could do that. That is acceptable. I think the issue with that is if it ever becomes something where it's like this is structural. Because I think that's where there's typically an issue is if it's used to be structure or supporting, which I understand. It seems like it's part of a structure, but it's really supported the whole way through, and you're using it as kind of like the hinge point. When you're then bending and curving things, maybe there's some challenges with it. I guess as long as there's no, I'm looking at your model right now, and it looks like there's, or the sample that you set us, there's the classic 1x1 modified plate with the eye hook. It's the double stud on each side that you can pass through. I think it's like the old, it's not the headlight brick, but they used to use it as headlights all the time back in the day. Since that's
I think I know what you mean.
Through, I guess if we show Rick's screen right now, you can see what we're talking about. Oh, that's my screen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my issue was more like for the not for the front panel, but like for the long. I think it's like 16 stud long side panel, with all those clip pieces basically. Like what I was looking at, I was like, oh, I basically need like a 16 stud long bar And I was like, there's
Yeah,
not
outer
an
cable
element
would be
like that.
fine for that. I think
Okay,
I
okay.
think outer cable would be okay. Because
Okay.
you're not stressing it, you're not using
Yeah.
it to support a ton
Yeah.
of weight. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it would, and there's
Yeah.
multiple clips attached. I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, like alternatively, what I originally used was just like the bar piece that I have right now, like the brown one, like that's used as like Gandalf stick.
Yeah.
But that has like the little like the little element that gets wider.
Yeah, the stopper.
Yeah, so
hard.
Yeah, and I try to basically attach as many things to that middle thing as possible to make it as stable as possible. So it's like, yeah, maybe like the flex rod would be like basically perfect because it comes like just in that length.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also tried to basically extend the flex rod to the front of the whole thing, like I don't know, like this, like basically bend it with the ship.
Yeah.
But that didn't really provide any stability advantages. Like it was just basically as stable as if I would use like the little bar piece.
Because you're already locked in with the mixer joints already. So
yeah, exactly. That's actually pretty sturdy. Like you could technically press the railing in a little bit, but it doesn't go anywhere, and it's like you can just basically bend it back, and then that would be fine.
So
I think it's stable.
What I would say at that point is that those are like the fine details that if it was a finalist that we would talk through and say, okay, let's build multiple versions of this and let's see what works best. From a submission standpoint, one way or the other is not going to make a difference in my opinion. So
okay,
cool.
Yeah, I think then that's it so far from my side.
Perfect. Thank you, Ali. Thanks for joining.
Yeah,
it was great talking with you.
So
Wonderful model. Look forward to seeing you or seeing your model submitted.
Yeah, I hope I can make it still in time for Series 9, but at least like you're gonna see it at some.
Yeah. Well, and this is a great that's a great point. You know, I know the submission intake period is open for select dates. It's like I think it's September 15th through the 29th. I think it's the 29th. You just need to make sure your model's submitted before the 29th, before noon our time on the 29th. Let's say it's not complete. You still have a placeholder in. We're not going to automatically reject it because then there's that whole following week where we're going through and reviewing models. If you want to submit a placeholder and be like, I think I'm going to be ready. I'm just like, I need a couple more hours to work on this and then deadline's here. Just submit the model, tell us, and then we'll put it back into resubmit and you can work on it still. So, because anyone that submits right at the deadline, if there's an issue, they still get time to work on it too. So we'll give you time. When in doubt, submit, because we can't add things to the submission, but we can easily pull it back if it's not ready.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there, like, I think in Series, I don't know, 7 or something. I submitted something. It was like really like a nail biter a little bit.
Okay. Thank you, Ollie.
Okay.
All right. Great chatting. All right. And I think our last designer is not here, but has some questions for us, right? Okay. And so the first one is, I've seen some awesome models have amazing animation, but others that don't. And I think it wants to know around, does that make or break a model? And I would say no. I think this is also kind of similar to, almost in vein to comments. You know, comments are there's a lot of models that get a ton of comments, and that's typically because those users have a pretty big social media following. We don't follow comments. Same with animations and other things like that. There are designers that are really good at making renders. They're working on their models in Blender, and there's a ton of just quality videos that go along with those models. And there's some that have made it through and some that haven't. So I wouldn't say that any of those things are you have to do that, because if you don't, you're not going to be selected as a finalist. I think we also get this question a lot with social media.
Yeah.
Right. So social media is also one of those things where people say, well, this person has a ton of followers on social media, so they're almost always going to win. And it's like, no, that's just not the case. There are some people that have very large social media followings, and that's because they're just really good builders. So so there's a chance that they have they have a little bit of an arm up in the competition, but that's just because they're really good builders and they have a pretty big following. But we also see that based on the data that we have from a voting standpoint is that typically those users with really large social media following bring more people to BDP and they vote on more sets. So if you're coming from social media and from somebody's direct link, I think it was on average you're voting like 80 times on 80 different models, I should say, not 80 times for one model. You're voting on 80 different models, and we know if anyone just comes organically through the BrickLink homepage, they're really only voting on about 50 models. So it's actually better when some of those people are linking models in. Now, again, getting back to animations and renders and that kind of thing, if you go back and look at a lot of the models that are currently finalists, they don't have amazing, spectacular renders. Sometimes you fall into this trap where it's like you put too much time into your render and it's so busy and you can't, it's too hard to know what's going on. It's too distracting, right? So sometimes the simpler the better. And I know that, sometimes we see models with really dark backgrounds and it's a dark model and you can't see what's going on. That can, but they're trying to kind of copy the 18 plus black box art type of thing. And it almost is a detriment. Yeah, and it's like if you have a dark model, put it on a white background. And it seems so counterintuitive, but play around with some things and see. You want to be able to see all of your model because the snap judgment that people are making is on the main screen. They're looking and seeing what are all these models, and if it speaks to them right away, then they'll click on it and look at it in depth. But if your main image isn't really highlighting your model in the best light, and it's really kind of hard to see and it's kind of garbled, well, then there's less chance that they're going to click open it and look at the model more and not hit like or love on the model. So that's where renders can really play a big part. All right, and then
some questions in the comments.
Yeah, so some other questions from the comments. So are we allowed to advertise our submissions? So yeah, you can definitely advertise them. You can, I don't know. I don't know that we've ever had anyone actually like put out ads in that sense. Like, I guess you could. I don't think there's anything specifically in the rules for straight up advertising your model. But in the general sense of like you're promoting your model on social media and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's totally fine. A lot of people do. There is only one rules, and I think somebody brought this up, and that is, if you have this model for sale on Rebrickable already, like just pause the sales for that time period, because that's the one thing we don't want is you're just using BDP as a way to market your models on Rebrickable or something like that, or what other website that it's on. You want to give your fans the fair shake that this is actually going to be produced into a set should it be popular enough. So yeah, any other questions? Oh, good. All right. That wraps it up. Thank you for taking the time to submit your models to us, to join us here for the kind of the Q&A, and as we do this kind of live feedback. We're just here trying to experiment, see what are ways that we can help foster fan designers and the community here. So hopefully this was beneficial to everyone. And if you're joining us here live, thank you for taking the time to do that. And if you're watching this recording back, thanks also for doing that. Let us know if you have comments, questions. Join us on the forum. There's the BDP forum. We're always there answering questions, providing feedback, and just having general dialogue with the fan community. Again, this program is for the fan community, right? To celebrate the fan community. So the more that we can work with you, the more that we can that you can provide us feedback, the better we can get, and hopefully the more fun we all can have. So thanks again. Appreciate all of your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.